Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to Let's Start Story on What If Naruto and Akeno Went White Heaven and Had Harem. So do 4 blue hearts. Comment, be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video, and please share with your friends and watch till end. Also check out Patreon for I have upload Naruto X Rias and Akeno uncensored spicy version, link in description. It was dark. The ground tasted like iron. The sound of dull throbbing permeated his chest. Bit by bit it was slowing down. The sound of him dying. Was this it? No. Pearly white teeth ground against each other in impotent fury and hate. He refused to die an inglorious death here on this nameless cave. He needed to be Hokage. He needed to end this war. He needed to live his life. He would not accept any less. Kurama. There was no reply. Of course there wasn't. Kurama wasn't there anymore. Who else could help him? His fingers scrabbled desperately on the ground, grinding the dirt under his nails in anger. Who else could help him? Anybody. I want to live. I don't care how. I must live. Kami or whatever, I can't and won't die. Do something. Anything. A bright red light slowly appeared in front of his prone body, shining through his barely opened eyelids, taunting him. A bright passionate flame-like light that mocked his own dying flames. A little blurry, but it was better than the darkness that was slowly invading his vision even as his pulse weakened. Hoo-ha, where the heck is this? Asmodeus. Is this your doing? The angry voice of a young man, probably barely in his 20s, echoed in the empty cave. The dying young man strained his neck to inspect the newcomer. His eyesight was blurry but enough to make out a few details. A lean person, he couldn't see if it was female or male, but going by the person's voice it was probably male. His height indicated that the newcomer was only slightly older than him, standing there in heavy armor the likes he had never seen before. Silver plate mail, gauntlets and greaves with gold accents and red decals. Long flaming red hair spilled from a ponytail as the man's head swung about warily. Probably looking for a trap. It was what he would have done. What he should have done. He wanted to say something but his throat had already stopped functioning. When the young red-headed man stopped looking around, warily he finally noticed the corpse of a young blonde man, face down in the dirt. One unfocused blue eye seemed to be looking at him. Warily he approached the body. Did this person summon me here? That shouldn't be possible, he muttered lowly, not really expecting an answer. Searzex. The voice of an angry young woman rang out jarringly as another person appeared out of a red floating circle. Where the hell did you go? Don't tell me you went on another joy ride. In another dimension no less. We're in the middle of a war. The lone blue eye shifted slightly to the most recent newcomer. A silver-haired girl with a passionate and angry expression. Was Kami shitting him? There was no way these idiots could help him. Could they? Ah, Graphia, the first person mumbled, it wasn't my fault, this time. Something summoned me forcefully. Something with enough hate and greed to call me here, to pull me against my will through the gate. The girl with the long silver hair froze. Summoned you? Across dimensions. Who? She looked around the empty cave before silver-gray eyes halted upon the body cooling in a pool of blood and dirt. Is it him? Is he dead? Mostly dead. There's a difference. And I'm not sure. I don't think anyone has ever been summoned to another dimension like this before. The long-haired girl sighed and face-palmed. I knew this evil peace plan was a mistake from the start. There are too many variables with the system to work properly. Before the man could retort, a low whisper emanated from the body in a rasping voice. I don't know who you two are, and I do, and care, but circa. And you save me. I have to keep living. The raggedy blonde tried to pull himself up but failed as all strength finally left his limbs completely. The two of them blinked in reply before the silver-haired one glared at the red-haired one. Searzex, don't tell me you're seriously considering this. The one called Searzex shrugged in a carefree manner. Like you said. There are too many problems in the system at the moment, that's why I'm testing this out for Ajuka. This is a good opportunity to see what the system can really do, isn't it? Besides, this seems incredibly fun. You're really going to waste a piece on him. A pathetic human. I don't even sense a sacred gear in him. One delicate eyebrow rose. He summoned me across dimensions. Me, the newest Lucifer. Against my will. Someone with enough hate, malice and greed to do that at least deserves a chance, isn't it? The young man knelt beside the blonde and laid one slender hand on high. back as his eyes closed in concentration while his companion stood back, tapping her foot on the ground with her arms crossed in a really impatient manner. Whatever, it's your piece, just hurry it up. I don't know how long Seraphal can hold the East Pavilion without us. This is, really weird. Weirder than you. No wonder he summoned you here. What was the phrase? Birds of a feather. Graphia-chan, you're so mean. Grr. Don't call me Chan. Hey. Stop laughing and deal with whatever the problem is. Alright, yeesh. Can't you relax a bit? You really need to get laid. The red-haired young man muttered that last part quietly so that his companion didn't hear it. Anyway, I just thought it was really weird. This man only needs one pawn to resurrect. The Tao. Ned Blonde mumbled something that sounded a lot like, quit flirting and save me damn it. But Sears X wasn't sure because the blonde's mouth seemed to be muffled with dirt. Yeah, so, I told you he was weak didn't I? I was. Kinda expecting some really big price for someone that could summon me against my will, something like 2 queens or something. Sears X said as he pouted childishly. Are you going to do it or not? Sears X winced at the unnecessarily loud yell and placed one pawn piece on top of the young man's back. That's strange. What now? His companion questioned tiredly. The price is correct but the piece isn't reacting to him. It's rejecting him for some reason. Whatever, it failed right. Let's go then. Reluctantly Sears X nodded and hesitantly picked up the unresponsive pawn piece. This is truly a pity. I am very sorry I couldn't help, and slowly walked to a waiting Graphia, his shoulders set in a very disappointed slump. End game. Haze. This really sucks. A brown-haired boy yelled to the sky in an empty park before slumping back into the park bench tiredly. Why am I so weak? I can't even form a single contract for Bucha. Even though I've been a devil for at least a month. This boy whose name was Issei Hyoto was a low-class devil who had been resurrected recently after his rather disastrous first date which had ended dead with him killed and his so-called girlfriend doing the killing. Ambition equals to be a harem king. Amount of magic equals less than a 5-year-old demon. So little that he couldn't even use the most basic of demon magic. Teleportation using magic arrays. Age equals years without a girlfriend. Or at least one that didn't want to put something sharp through him. Otaku. An utter pervert and third member of the famous pervert trio of Kuo Academy who would shameless peep on anything that even remotely looked like a pretty female. Ranking equals bottom of the class, only slightly above his 2 friends Motohama and Matsuda. The remaining 2 members of the aforementioned infamous pervert trio. In short, he was what society would consider scum or trash. His only redeeming feature was that his body contained an extremely powerful sacred gear. Though it had to be said that he didn't even know what it could do yet. Hawa. A cute sound roused the boy from his depression and he lifted his head to look around He Park which had seemed empty earlier and was just in time to see a nun sister trip and fall down with her arms spread wide. Her bag was flung away from the momentum and burst open, spilling its sides all over the place the moment it hit the curb. Figuring the least he could do was help someone who seemed as unfortunate as him, the brown-haired boy got up and casually walked over to the deceased. Who was picking herself up as she rubbed her sore nose with one hand with her back to him. He paused to pick up a shirt before kneeling beside the cutely mumbling sister. Do you need any help? The sister adorably lifted her head to look at her helper with watery eyes. Just then, a sudden gust of wind blew off her veil and Issei was left looking at an extremely pretty blonde girl with green eyes. Shit. She's so beautiful. The golden-haired sister simply tilted her head curiously at the person who had approached her. The frozen boy seemed to be staring at her with a curiously red expression on his face. Are you alright? She asked him unsurely. It took a mighty effort of will that he didn't know he had to tear his eyes away from the beautiful sister and Issei Law. Sheepishly before hurriedly picking up the clothes on the ground to hide his mistake. I'm alright. He desperately casted about for something to say and keep the sister's attention on him as he picked up her veil. Are you traveling? I don't see many sisters in this area very often. No, I'm just a sister who was recently appointed to the church in this town. You must be a resident of this town. It's a pleasure to meet you. The sister smiled brightly and bowed politely. Issei's smile widened, beautiful and polite. She truly was perfect wife material. I was troubled since I got here. I can't speak Japanese that well. I was lost and other people couldn't understand what I was saying. She held her hand together in front of her chest and looked really sad. Int. Rn ally Issei chalked it up as another reason to be happy about being turned into a demon, the ability to understand any human language. Ahaha, I think I know which church you're talking about, do you want me to show you the way? But was that really the church in question? Was it even functional? Last he remembered seeing anybody there was 5 years ago. The sister's smile returned and the Shibo wed repeatedly while thanking Issei profusely. The brown-haired boy on the other hand smiled and felt like his heart was being filled with warmth at being blessed enough to meet someone like her. Ahahaha. It's nothing. My mother taught me to always help people in need. Don't worry about it. She didn't. Just as he was leading the sister away, the sound of cloth flapping in the wind alerted him to the fact that they were being watched. Out of the corner of his eye he saw a strange figure clad in a white long coat with red flame-like designs at the bottom. What was even weirder was that the person was somehow perched upside down from a tree, but when he turned around to look closer the figure was already gone. Shrugging it off as an illusion or something, he returned his attention to the cute sister just like that led her to the nearest church. End game. Are you worried about Issei? A slender but busty girl with a cattish smile and long black hair tied in an elegant ponytail questioned her friend who was staring uneasily out of a window. How can I not be? I have faith that he will become truly powerful, but it's not normal for a resurrected demon to have so low magical reserves. Not to mention, none of his clients made a contract with him yet. The red-haired princess replied. Foo, I don't think you should be worried about that though. Every survey that we received has nothing but good things to say about him. About how he treats them nicely and warmly, and how he spends time with them despite not getting a reward. I don't think I've ever seen something like this. Since most people who summon is to so out of greed, a situation like this is rather unique. Then again, Hyodo-kun is a rather unique person, isn't he, Rias? True. Just then a breeze floated through the open window where Rias was standing, and her childhood best friend stiffened in her seat immediately before covering her mouth in a ladylike gesture and laughing sadistically. Th. There seems to be a shitty hentai Gigi Siskin hanging around campus lately. The red-headed girl blinked before turning to look at her queen with a confused expression before realization dawned, and she quirked one eyebrow at the raven-haired girl. Akeno. I really don't understand you sometimes. Foo, Rias-sama, what is so hard to understand? He is a shitty hentai Siskin, that's all. No Imea. NT, how you can always sense him when no one else can. It's because he is a shitty hentai Siskin. How can you sense something like that? Because he is a shitty hentai Siskin. That's why I said I can never understand you. Foo. End game. Issei. Get ready for a fight. The president of the Occult Research Club calmly ordered her newest servant. Hi. But may I know what for? The entire Occult Research Club was standing outside what seemed like a desolate abandoned building on the outskirts of town. Akeno stepped up beside Rias calmly. We have received an order from the Archduke. There's an exiled demon in Rias-sama's territory, and as the demon's officially in charge of this area, it's our job to terminate it, and we have tracked it down to this place. Terminate it. A sly smile appeared on Rias' lips. Yes. This will be a good chance to show you how demons fight. Wait, are you serious? I'm positive that I won't be of much use. Yes. It's still impossible now. Issei's shoulders slumped down in despair at being told so bluntly that he was useless. She could at least be more tactful. But you can watch what a devil's battle is like. Today just concentrate and look at how we fight. The reed-headed president of the occult club tipped her chin as if just only thinking of something. Oh yes. I will also explain the traits the servants have. Explain. The traits servants have. The newest member of the club made a confused expression, but the president continued speaking anyway. Devils who become a master can give certain traits to those who will become their servants. Yes, it's probably about time I explain about it in the history of devils. There was a three-sided war between the devils, the fallen angels, and God with its angels' followers. All three sides had a large army and they fought for almost eternity because all three sides were so evenly matched. As a result, all three sides lost most of their troops in the war shed several hundred years ago with no side winning. Kiba continued after Bushu. The devils were no exception. High-ranking devils with peerage who commanded about 20 or 30 troops lost most of their underlings because of the war. At the time, a majority of all the armies of hell consisted of what we call pure-blooded demons, but because of the high amount of deaths among the demon population, Mons with rank and titles couldn't even form new armies any longer. Akeno-san continued on from there. I heard that most of the pure devils passed away in that war. But even after the war, there are still problems between the devils. The fallen angels and God. Even though the fallen angels and God's side suffered similar losses, we are still in a position where we can't let our guard down or else we will be in trouble. Then Bushu spoke again. Thus the devils decided to use a system to form a small group of soldiers. And that is the evil peace. Evil peace. Issei scratched his head furio. Usly as he tried to keep up with the history lesson. Devils with peerage decide to use the traits of the humans' game, chess, to their servant devils. There was a certain irony to the whole situation. Because most of the servants are devils that were reincarnated from humans, in other words half-bloods. Since then chess became a popular game in the world of the devils. We'll leave that aside. Devi, LS who are masters are given the rank of king. In our case that is me. From there they created 5 special traits which consisted of the queen, rook, bishop, knight and pawn. Since they couldn't make an army, they decided to have a small number of devils and the system would give them enormous powers in order to compensate. This system was made in the past few hundred years ago, and became unexpectedly popular amongst devils with peerage as a form of entertainment as well as a method of settling conflicts without exaggerated losses. Popular. You mean the chess rule? They started to compete against each other. For example like, my knight is stronger, or, no, my rook is stronger. As a result high-class devils started to play a game like that of chess against each other using their servant devils. We call it the rating game. Anyway this game became very popular amongst the devils. Now there are even tournaments for it. The strength of their pieces, and also how strong they are. At the game affects the devils' social position, and their peerage. There is a thing called piece collect, where they gather humans with talents and make them into their pieces. It is very popular recently. To sum it up, the more talented their servants are and the better they do in these rating games, the better their status in our society. Issei nodded slowly, I see. So being an influential place. In that game means that you are a splendid devil. It also becomes your pride then. And at the moment many of the servants' devils have now were former humans and they function by becoming pieces in the game. I feel it's complicated. So will I be someday forced to fight in that game? I'm not a matured devil yet, so I can't participate in a formal tournament. Even if I could, there are things that I need to go through or else I can't play. In short, I and my servants here won't be participating in a game for a while. So does that mean that Kiba and the others haven't played in that game yet? Yeah, Kiba answered my question with a Bishonen smile. Eyes smiled tiredly, The world of devils is unexpectedly strange. I used to imagine them being evil and scary, but it looks like my imagination was incorrect. Or maybe I feel like that because I'm still ignorant of the ways of the devil's world. Before that there is something that is bothering me, he looked at his beloved president, Bushu. What is my role and traits? And what piece am I? You are. Bushu stopped before she could say anything else. Just as their group crossed over the threshold a certain presence flooded the area. It was all Issei could do not to fall to his knees under the onslaught of such an intense intent to kill. Kukuku, I can smell something disgusting. But I can also smell something delicious. Is it sweet? Or is it sour? A low eerie voice which sounded like it was coming from below the ground echoed around the Abaddon building's interior. Completely unfazed Rias stepped forward and loudly declared. Exiled Devil Vazor, we are here to eliminate you. Qua 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 qua. The abnormal laughter echoes around them. From the shadows, a grotesque thing slowly stepped out as if savoring Issei's fear. For a moment Issei wondered it was all a mistake as a woman came into view. Only a few things told him that it wasn't, namely the fact that her naked body was floating several feet of the ground. No, not floating. Bam! The sounds of incredibly heavy footsteps accompanied the naked woman's movements. The next thing that appeared was the body of a gigantic beast. It was a grotesque being with an unnatural form having a woman's upper body and the lower body of a monster. It was also holding something that looked like a spear in both of its hands. The lower body of the monster had 4 fat legs with sharp claws, while a long scaly snake tail lazily waved about in the air like one belonging to a cat while it was hunting its prey. For a moment no one did any noise except for a slight gulp from Issei. Leaving your master's side and rampaging as you please definitely deserves a death sentence. In the name of Duke Grumori, I will gladly eliminate you. The exiled demon laughed mockingly. Eliminate me? A small girl like you? No matter how brave or cunning you are, I will rip your body apart and color it in red just like your hair. Phewahaha. Rias simply snorted condescendingly at the demon's posturing. What was the phrase? A weak dog barks the loudest. Enough, Yuto. Yes. In response to Rias's order, Kiba Yuto simply disappeared from his spot beside Issei. The brown-haired boy was tempted to yell that something was wrong, but before he knew it, the blonde Bishonen boy reappeared beside the towering monster in a burst of speed. I will continue from the lecture before. The redhead's calm words drew Issei's attention from Yuto, who was nimbly evading the monster's claws. Lecture. The thing about evil piece's traits. Yes. Yuto's position is knight. Its trait is speed. Those who become a knight will have their speed increased drastically. Just like she said, Kiba's speed started increasing bit by bit to the point Issei could no longer even keep up with his movements, and Yuto looked like nothing more than a yellow blur to him, even as the Bishonen dodged spear, claws and tail alike. Each time the sharp point of a spear or a claw got close to him, a teasing smile would appear on Kiba's lips before he dodged it entirely with another burst of insane speed. All knights have speed as their piece's attribute. The matter of an offense is entirely up to the user itself. In Yuto's case, he is an excellent swordsman and thus uses swords as a primary mode of offense. Kiba stopped dodging as if to punctuate Rias's words, and suddenly he was holding a European sword that appeared out of nowhere. In one elegant move, the sword was drawn and the naked blade glinted in the light of the moon before Yuto's LF proclaimed rival suddenly disappeared again. Yeah, Issei blinked. All he had done was blink, and the next thing he saw was the monster's arms hitting the floor with heavy thuds. Both of IT's arms had been separated from its torso along with the spear it had been holding. Blood gushed out of its wound onto the floor in a gory mess. This is Yuto's power. Speed which you can't follow with your eyes. And sword skills of that of a professional. By combining these two attributes, I do not doubt that he can become one of the strongest knights in the raiding game. Yuto suddenly leapt back, feeling that his introduction was over, allowing a small shadow to slip into range. Wait, is that Kaneko-chan? Issei cried out in a panic as the small girl reared back one fist but was swallowed by a huge grotesque mouth that had opened in the monster's abdomen. Rias, who seemed completely unruffled and unconcerned for the safety for her subordinates, continued speaking as if Kaneko hadn't just been swallowed whole. Next is Kaneko. She is a rook. The trait of a rook is its. That's not the time for that. We have to save her. Rias simply blocked Issei's charge with one hand. Kaneko-chan. No, she's in trouble. A strange creaking sound came from the mouth in the monster's abdomen. Brrk. The jaws were slowly being pried apart by a tiny emotionless seeming girl. The NDS were coming from the monster, who was trying to clamp the jaws close again. The traits of a rook are simple, incredible strength and also very high defense. It's impossible for a devil with that caliber to defeat Kaneko. It can't crush her. Just as she said, Issei watched completely stunned as Kaneko casually stepped out from the mouth before lifting the entire monster whole and throwing up into the air like the 5 meters tall monster weighed absolutely nothing. Fly. Kaneko-chan jumped up high and punched the monster's stomach so hard that the huge 5-foot-long teeth around the obscene abdomen jaw shattered. A picture-perfect volleyball spike. The enormous body of the monster rocketed backwards from a frail punch, and Issei failed to stop gaping as the monster crashed into the wall and slid down the wall like a swatted fly. Lastly, Akeno. Akeno-san laughed daintily and took her cue to start walking towards the monster, who had just been sent flying by a hit from a tiny Kaneko-chan. Rias nodded approvingly at Kaneko before turning back to Akeno. Akeno is a queen. It's the person who is the strongest after me. She is the unbeatable queen who has all the traits of pawn, knight, bishop, and rook. Gugu. The monster stared defiantly at Akeno-san, who simply laughed fearlessly after seeing the monster's gaze as it tried to get up again. Era, seems like you still have some energy left in you, nay. Then how about this? Akeno smiled sweetly before lifting up her hands in a cupping gesture towards the sky. Weird purple miasma spread out from the ceiling. Bover and everybody could hear ominous rumbling coming from the purple cloud. Flash! Gaga! The monster screamed as the purple miasma sparked violently and a lightning bolt strikes down the monster. Issei couldn't help but shut his eyes against the bright flashes of light. By the time he reopened them, the monster's entire body was burnt and smoke was coming out from it. Oh my! Seems like you are really an energetic child. Looks like you can take more. Flash! Without warning, another lightning bolt hit the monster mercilessly as a red blush slowly stained Akeno's cheeks. And she licked her lips as if almost in hunger. Gwa! Akeno's face while striking down the lightning bolt had a scary and cold expression even though she was smiling. From that moment onwards, the newest member of the occult club decided that like Kaneko, he would never risk getting Akeno pissed off. Or at least not until he was sure he could survive a thunder strike. Akeno excels at using attacks made from magical powers. She is physically strong as well as proficient at using natural elements like lightning, ice, and fire and such, but prefers to use lightning spells. And most of all, she is the ultimate sadist. Sadist. That's not supposed to be something you say so easily like taking a walk. Usually she's very kind, but once the battle starts, she won't stop until she calms down. Sob. I'm scared of Akeno-san. Quote. You don't have to be afraid, eyes. Akeno is very kind to her comrades, so it's not a problem. She even said that you were cute. Next time, get spoiled by her. She will definitely hug you kindly. Foo. How much of my lightning can you take, Monster-san? You still can't die yet. The one who finishes you off will be my master. Oh ho. Bushu. I'm getting very scared of the person in front of me who is laughing very loudly. I thought she was the person with the most common sense. Well, she is a devil after all. That's how it is, isn't it? Since she is a devil, she has to be scary. Right. For a few minutes Akeno-san's lightning attacks continued repeatedly and mercilessly as Akeno licked her fingers while watching the wretched monster hungrily. After Akeno-san calmed down, Bushu confirmed it and nodded her head. Bushu approached the monster that had already lost its will to fight. Bushu put her hand towards the monster. Any last words? Kill me. That's the only thing the monster said. Is that so? Then disappear. A heartless reply. Boom. A gigantic black magic ball shot out from her palm. It was big enough to cover all of the monster's body. When the orb made contact with the monster's body, the monster simply gurgled as her body slowly disappeared, disintegrating like ash in a strong wind. Just like she said, it disappeared. Rias simply made a tired and sad sigh after confirming it. Turning around to the club members, the red-headed girl clapped once and nodded approvingly. It's over. Good work everyone. And just like that, everyone was back to their usual cherry self. Just like that, the exiled devil hunt was over. Even though he hadn't done anything, it was a truly terrifying night for Issei Hyodo. The abnormal combat capabilities of a demon wasn't a simple thing. For a moment, he realized if he accepted tonight, this would be the turning point for Issei Hyodo. The turning point where Issei Hyodo changed from trash of society to something that might actually be worth something. There was something he still hadn't asked her. Bushu, there is still a thing that you didn't tell me. What is it? Bushu responded with a calm and affectionate smile. My piece, more like what is my role as your servant. To tell the truth, he already predicted the worst case. More like there was only that left. But he held out a small and naive hope. If Akeno-san was a queen, Kaneko was a rook, and Kiba was a knight, that meant there was only two roles left. The bishop and the pawn. Issei's hopes were completely shattered. The crimson-haired beauty smiled at him and spoke so clearly that there was no doubt that he had heard it correctly. You are a pawn. Eyes, you are a pawn. Eyes' shoulder slumped down in disappointment. Watch out. Yuto's blade was already out and sparking as it clashed with a blood-caked ivory spear, whereas Kaneko took a defensive stance in front of her king, protecting her from the claws attacking them. Out of the corner of his eyes, Issei noticed that Akeno was simply standing there with a calm expression on her face. Maybe she has so. Shocked she didn't have time to respond. Whatever the case, she wouldn't make it in time to stop a snake-like tail from sweeping all of them away. So he did the only thing he could despite being scared. Sacred gear. A bright green light emanated from the back of Issei's left fist as a red gauntlet that seemed to be made out of some sort of red alloy materialized around his left fist. I'll show you Bushu. I'll show you that even if I'm a pawn I'm not useless. Eyes. Don't. You don't know how to fight yet. Ha. Eyes let out a victorious roar as he deflected the tail swipe with his gauntlet. The intimidating spikes on the tail screeched out as they sparked against the red alloy. Throwing the heavy tail off course, Issei jumped up and single-handedly punched the new monster in the face. With his left fist hard enough to send it staggering back. This one was male and seemed to be at least double of the first monster's height and bulk. Goo 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 ga. You killed my mate. It roared and a spiked snake tail lashed out violently, scoring cuts all over Aiza's abdomen. Although Issei managed to deflect the worst of the spikes, the force from the massive tail blow still managed to send him flying through the air. Guog. Eyes. He could vaguely hear shouts coming from everybody in the occult club and was about to lose consciousness when his skyward momentum came to an abrupt and jarring stop. Yo you. One fist firmly held Eyes up by his collar and his eyes widened as he struggled to focus on the familiar white long coat with its distinctive red flame designs at the bottom. You. That guy who was watching me in Asia. Not bad, that was pretty admirable. Stupid, but admirable. The person whose face was obscured by the shadows cast by a white hood dropped down to ground L. Evil and gently lowered Eyes onto his bum. Eyes stared in confusion as his club mates surrounded him in concern. Ignoring all of them, the man in the white coat's chest puffed out as he seemed to take a deep gulp of air even as the monster started charging their little group. The spear was just inches from the unknown man's face when he roared. Kesoku no Hoko. There was a split second where Eyes' thought process halted as he wondered how a breath of air could stop the spear from hurtling through the man's face, but instead of the expected hot air, a huge whitish-blue beam lanced out from the man's roar, instantly disintegrating everything in front of him. In a matter of seconds, half of the building was already gone and beyond where a wall used to be was a huge smoking trench on the ground. The monster that had been at least 10 meters tall and had been giving Yuto and Kaneko trouble had disappeared without a trace. The man in the white coat patted some ash off of his coat and turned around to face Aiza's group before he made some clicking noises. Tisk, tisk, you let your guard down, Ria. I thought I taught you better than that. There was no such thing. I knew you were there from the start, Nisama. The note mentioned that you were in the area hunting for our target's companion since it was out of our abilities to hunt both of them at the moment, so I was already expecting you to act the moment it showed up. Rias calmly retorted. Tisk. Know it all. The man replied in an amused voice. Yumu. Rias simply huffed cutely with a defiant pout on her face like a little girl wanting to impress someone, resulting in Issei's dropped jaw since he had never seen her act like this before. Rias senpai was adorable. Too adorable. Wait, Nisama. You're Bushu's brother. Era. I forgot to tell you. We're not blood related, but we are close since he is a retainer of the Grimori family. Rias glanced back at the relaxed man who seemed to be watching them amusedly. Eyes, meet Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Ahaha, I'm no one special, just an ordinary passerby. Era, that's right, you don't have to be so respectful to a shitty hentai like him, so you can just call him shitty hentai Gigi Siskin. Akeno senpai said with a completely straight face and a mature affectionate smile that totally didn't suit the absolutely loathing glint in her narrowed eyes. Or you could call me Naruto. He added nervously. Don't act like you didn't hear Akeno-san say anything. End game. Play Gundam Seed, Meteor. One ragged hand slowly rose from the ground as if trying to reach the leaving couple. I don't know who you are, but if you can help me, I'll do anything. I refuse to die. The blonde roared with all his remaining strength. As if in response, a red glow activated in the male demon's pocket and a glowing chess piece shot out automatically, slamming into the blonde's open palm. The blonde's bloodied fist closed resolutely around the rocketing piece, defying death itself. A mutated piece. Sears X breathed out in awe. A mutated piece responded to him. Graphia looked at her friend unsurely. Are you sure you want to use something important like that? Is it really worth someone that costs only a single pawn? The red-haired man started laughing maniacally. Worth it. Of course it's worth it. This is interesting, this is so interesting. The beautiful silver-haired girl rubbed her temples tiredly. You know, I used to wonder how the heck are you and Ajuka friends, but then you suddenly start laughing like that and I then started wondering why didn't I stay on the other side. At least they're sane. Kahaha. Sane is overrated and boring. This man is interesting, that's all I need to know. You. What's your name? Naruto. Uzumaki Namikaze. Sears X laughed even louder. How fitting. Yes. A storm is truly fitting enough to be one of my pieces. He confidently strode forwards and placed one hand over the blonde's closed fist. Before slowly invoking the required ceremonial phrase, I, Sears X Lucifer, by my command, to thee, Naruto Namikaze, to allow thy soul to descend to earth once more, to become my demon slave. Volving magic array bearing his official herald slowly formed around the prone blonde, activated by his powerful chanting, as your new master, I grant you new life. Awaken my servant. The red glow slowly grew brighter and brighter until the two demons had to shield their eyes from the harsh glare. Awaken to your new life. As if waiting for that command, the circle flared a brilliant gold, the light engulfing the whole cave. Eyes. Meet Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Ahaha, I'm no one special, just an ordinary passerby. Era, that's right, you don't have to be so respectful to a shitty hentai. I like him so you can just call him shitty hentai Gigi Siskin. Akeno senpai said with a completely straight face and a mature affectionate smile that totally didn't suit the absolutely loathing glint in her narrowed eyes. Or you could call me Naruto, he added nervously. Don't act like you didn't hear Akeno-san say anything. End game. Good morning, my name is Issei Hyodo, a complete pervert and so-called trash of society. It's really hard to admit it but I'm really in trouble right now. Earlier today I had gone to have a nap in the infirmary for 2 reasons. The first was because I hadn't been feeling well after witnessing so much blood being spilt. Even if the blood spilt belonged to an inhuman monster it still wasn't easy to witness something like that. But that isn't the problem right now. The problem was that I was being hugged by a completely naked Bushu. In the infirmary. In school. This was like that special unlockable scene in that super rare, super special H-game Motohama lent me. Especially because due to Motohama's obsession with Bushu, the heroine of the game also looked Bushu. Motohama, sorry but it looks like I'm going ahead first. I'm ing further and further into a real adult's world unlike the two of you. I really wanted to thank Kami for this blessing but then I remembered that as a devil, praying to Kami would incite his wrath. That's right, Issei Hyodo. I'm a recently resurrected low-class devil, pawn of Rias Grimori, heir to the house of Grimori, bearer of a sacred gear, a gear that supposedly contained the infamous red dragon in it. And I was currently resisting the temptation to fully reach out squeeze those two soft, fleshy, juicy, creamy orbs in front of my face. Strange, it felt more like torture than pleasure. Foo. If you want to touch them, you can do it you know. I won't get angry. Bu Bushu. You were awake. I mean, what were you doing in here with me? Hoo, I was tired so I came here to sleep. I needed a plush toy to hug so that I could sleep, and you coincidentally happened to be in here as well. Besides, watching your conflicted face was so interesting. Does this chest of mine intrigue you that much? What are you saying? Of course I am. They are the most perfect pair of breasts that I have ever seen. They have a perfect shape, perfect curves, perfect shape. Everything is perfect about Bushu. Rias Grimori laughed quietly at her pawn's exceedingly enthusiastic rant about her anatomy, adorning a sultry expression on her face. The naked princess began leaning towards Issei's face. Issei's breath hitched and he stiffened as Bushu's perfect face got nearer and nearer to his, that perfect face with such a sultry and perfect expression on it, full, vivid pouting red lips, perfectly shaped nose. Bright red eyes glinting with mischief. Wait what? Hoo, if they really are perfect. Do you want to touch them? Touch these sinful breasts. Bushu's seductive and husky voice echoed in his ear, wiping out any thoughts eyes might have had. The young man gulped and nodded frantically. Yes, anything. Bushu leaned in closer. Issei could feel his heart beating so fast he was afraid that it would burst out of his chest. He could feel the alluring warmth of her skin since she was so close, just as he thought she was going to kiss him on the lips. Her weight shifted and those seductive red lips moved towards his ear instead. Then I want you to promise me something. If you can do it, I'll let you touch them all you want. Gulp. Anything. I want you to. Gulp. Make a contract with a client. Abruptly Bushu's wondrous heat retreated and Issei was left dazed as the red-haired lady expertly put on all her clothes in less than a second. I'm looking forward to your success, Aiz-kun. Rias winked at the dazed boy and left without another word. I feel like I've just been tricked. But I can't bring myself to be angry about it. Issei blinked. Make a contract. Yuwu. Just watch Bushu. No matter what, I'll make a contract today. Hurriedly shrugging on all his clothes, Issei immediately sped to the clubroom to obtain his newest assignment. Throwing the door open aggressively, Issei, who was breathing heavily from his sudden sprint, stepped into the clubroom triumphantly. Only to feel all his vigor leave as he noticed exactly who was in the clubroom. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. The man in the long coat was the second reason he had been in the infirmary. He had been so busy contemplating and worrying about the competition that a male newcomer that might cause in his race to be a harem king, especially since Akeno-san and Rias Bushu were both the most beautiful women in Kuo Academy. Surely I am just being there lowered his chances with them drastically. Just having that idiotic Bishonen Yuto was bad enough, now there was another competitor in the form of an experienced male demon that paired to be very strong if last night was indication. The fact that Issei's sacred gear didn't like him wasn't exactly helping the hooded man's case. Flashback. Family retainer. I thought he was your brother. Issei's muddled brain tried to flush out all the adrenaline surging through his head that was making it hard to think properly. Bushu nodded with an affectionate smile on her lips. You can think of him as a permanent butler to the Grimoire family. I call him Nisama because when I was younger he used to take care of me a lot whenever everybody else was busy. I see. He got the feeling that the man in the white coat was winking at him from behind the shadows cast by his hood. Just then the man in question stepped forward, held out his hand and spoke cheerfully as if he had not just blown half a mansion away with one breath. Like I said, you can just call me Naruto. Since we're both pawns and comrades in the Grimoire family, there's no need for honorifics. Blinking, Issei automatically reached out to grasp the calloused hands in a handshake. Aibo, partner. Don't touch him. This man is dangerous. A deep, gruff war-like voice echoed in his head. Where did that voice come from? He cried out, his hand jerking back from the handshake as if burnt. Issei swung his head around wildly to look for the source of the voice. Who's there? When no one replied, he turned to his club mates only to find each and every one of them looking at him strangely, except Akeno-san. The occult club's vice president actually seemed to approve of the fact that Issei didn't touch Naruto. Although her reasons seemed different from his own. No, none of you heard that voice. Everyone shook their heads in the negative. See. Just then the armored gauntlet on his left hand vibrated, causing his eyes to widen. So the voice was from his boosted gear. Hiding his nervousness, Issei decided to heed the dragon's advice and sketched a polite bow instead of a handshake. Acting as if his actions weren't completely forced. The hooded man simply nodded and Issei got the impression that the man had some idea of what had just happened but was simply amused instead of insulted. Amused in the way a predator would entertain itself as it watched its prey struggle, that is. Flashback end. Anyway, he didn't even know what Naruto looked like. He-Man had not pulled down his hood for even a second after his introduction, so for now Naruto was still categorized as a potential enemy to the harem plan. A blast of lightning narrowly missed Issei. The brown-haired boy blinked nervously. Did his death just miss his head by a few centimeters? Era, stop running away please, Kuso Jiji, shitty geezer. Then stop trying to kill me, thunder tits. One could hear the sound of Akeno's veins snapping as she doubled the amount of attacks. If she wasn't trying to kill him before, she was certainly trying to do so now. URRK. Why are you trying to kill me? All I did was steal your red panties. Red panties. Against all odds, the black aura around Akeno became even more malevolent. Fufufu. At least now I have a legitimate reason to kill you. Wait, what? Legitimate? Then what the hell was the last 100 bolts you threw at me for? Accidents. Accidents, my cute ass. Yeah. Blinking slightly, Issei's brains decided he was probably better off not noticing the scene of carnage in front of him for the sake of his already dwindling sanity. Even he thought stealing panties from the ultimate sadist of the Grimoire family was fairly stupid, and that was saying something if even Issei Hyodo, resident pervert extraordinaire, thought it was stupid. Pretending not to see another bolt of lightning narrowly miss the tall man's family. Why Jules, he mechanically moved towards a grinning Kiba. Good afternoon Yuto. Good day to you too, Eyes-kun. A sparking sword was barely lifted in time to absorb another blast of lightning. My. Today seems like it's going to be rather busy, isn't it? One eyebrow started twitching. Busy? Dunno what you're talking about. I didn't see anybody being fried by Akeno-san. Nope. Nothing at all. Denial, Wise choice. Well, at least until everything left of your sanity disappears anyway. Yuto nodded wisely. Don't say something so ominous with such a handsome smile, you damned Bishonen. Anyway, what brings you here so early? I came to get my client for the day. I promised Bushu I would finally sign a contract with a client today, so I wanted to get it done as fast as possible. Issei explained as he carefully blocked out the sounds of a man being tortured behind him. Yuto carefully peeked over Issei's shoulder. The assignments are with Akeno-san. Yuto blinked. She's about done roasting him, so you can go talk to her now. Just don't stand in front of her, she tends to break peep. My spine. It's not supposed to make that kind of sound. Era. What sound? CRRACCCK. That sound duo. Kiba coughed politely. I mean, things that stand in front of her after one of her episodes. He finished as if nothing had interrupted them. You were going to say people, didn't you? Wait, episodes? What episodes? This happens even when Naruto-san isn't here. Issei thought frantically. Aka-san. The life of a low-class devil really isn't easy after all. Ahahaha, you're so funny Yuto, I don't see anything being roasted at all. That's because you refuse to look behind you. Damn you, Yuto. Don't break my illusions of a happy school life with a kind and beautiful Akeno-san with just a few words. End game. Staring at a map in his hand, Issei scratched his head in confusion. This is the place, isn't it? Issei muttered softly. He had tried ringing the bell a few times but no one had answered. He thought of going back to Akeno to get confirmation, but his rational side immediately vetoed that suggestion. When he had asked for today's assignment, an extremely cheerful Akeno had given one last disturbingly orgasmic moan before daintily wiping some sweat off her shining face with a lacy handkerchief and passed him the map with a beatific smile on her face that sent shivers down his back for some reason. Issei studiously ignored the pile of charcoal by her feet and bowed before racing out of the clubroom. No point worrying about it. I'll just go in and check myself. Issei steeled his resolve and laid one palm on the doorknob. The door silently swung open. It's not locked. Badump. What is this uneasiness? Issei muttered quietly as he stealthily walked through the dark hallways. Just as the brown-haired boy entered the living room, he accidentally stepped into something wet. What is this? Water. Tisk. Idiot owner left without locking his door or closing his taps. What a waste. He reached down to pull off his wet sock, but whatever the fluid was, it was too sticky to be water. This isn't water. He held his wet hand closer to his face so that he could see the substance clearer in the dark. Blood. It's blood. Issei immediately scrambled backwards but froze when his back touched something equally wet. What is this? He slowly turned around to find a wall. The entire wall had been painted with blood, tumbling away as far as possible. Issei frantically looked around. Aside from one, every other wall had been painted with blood. He felt bile slowly rise up. What the hell is this? This is insane. Hung on the one remaining wall was a disfigured body, torn open with its entrails hanging out and crucified in an extremely distasteful parody of a reversed Christian cross. Beside the body, old see something written all over the wall with blood that probably once belonged to the corpse. Stumbling to a corner where there was relatively little blood, Issei could not hold it in anymore and promptly puked onto the floor. Shakily he remained in that position even after he was done emptying his stomach, trying to gather enough energy in his legs to escape the house when a few strains of Ch. Ild's song along with light footsteps as if the singer was dancing, slowly floated into the living room. Forcing his shaking legs to obey, Issei grimly prepared himself for the newcomer. Candles sud. NLY flared into life as the singer danced into the room. At a glance, the newcomer looked normal if rather flamboyant. An official-looking long coat, white pristine hair and sharp features. Only the INS and smile and the gun holster on the singer's belt told Issei that the man wasn't normal in the least. He prepared himself for battle. End game. A tall man enshrouded in a shadowy trench coat stood atop a neighboring building's roof as he watched the white-haired priest slowly taunt and demolish the low-class devil. One single snort escaped his lips. Fried was insane and completely unreliable even at the best of times. But he definitely knew how to cause people pain. Cloth rustled as the huge man readied himself. A red glow that signaled reinforcement for the beleaguered devil had begun to glow through the living room's window. Fried thought talented wasn't powerful enough to handle more than 3 low-class devils by himself, so the towering man resigned himself to helping the insane priest. Just as he crouched down to prepare for a giant leap, a finger tapped his shoulder. Shocked, the huge man immediately rolled away from a hooded man that had appeared out of nowhere before. He's standing up and facing the smaller man menacingly. "Who are you?" he growled out ominously. The man whose features were hidden in the darkness of his hood seemed to eye the man up and down. "Just a passerby." "You're a big one, aren't you?" The man who was built like a shit brick house grinned menacingly. "A passerby? Well, too bad, but I have to kill you now that you've seen me. If you want to hate someone, hate Cammy." Wait, I just wanted to ask you some questions." "Huh?" The smaller man scratched his head in an annoyed manner. Azazel sent word. "Your sister is in danger." "Word for word. That idiot is obviously measuring our skills for whatever insane plan he has in mind, but the warning worked like a charm and now my utterly riled up boss is on the warpath. And when he is riled up, we don't get to sleep because we have to babysit that dumbass. So far I haven't been able to find anything concrete other than the fact that the monsters seem more restless than usual. So would you terribly mind telling me exactly what is it that whoever your boss is planning? You see, if I don't find out and protect his sister while I'm at it, my boss will be very upset with me and I kinda want to go back and finally get a nice long night's worth of sleep without a certain psycho queen trying to turn me into her personal walking lightbulb." The taller man blinked at the rather irritated rant before narrowing his eyes at the strange man in the white long coat. "Azazel. Who the hell are you?" "Like I said, I'm just a passerby." Naruto sighed in an aggrieved manner. "Now will you just tell me?" "In your dreams." The big man roared as huge black wings spread out of his back with a loud boom and he began charging at the smaller one. "Ah, the hard way it is then. Pity." The man in the white coat snapped his fingers. Squelch. Quote. A smaller form slowly stepped out of the shadows. "Are you done eating yet?" it asked in a bored tone. "Gimme a sec." "All right, done. Let's see. Will you hurry it up?" "Zex, already burned through the last of our sedatives." Fia had to start freezing his ass to the floor so that he didn't just drop all his paperwork then come bargain G into town and blowing up anything that even looked at Haim-chan wrongly. What a time for shit to happen, especially with the ball coming up so soon. The man snickered at the shadow's complaints and as he rapidly scribbled something down onto a piece of paper. "Did you get a picture?" "No opposable thumbs, dumbass." The smaller form deadpanned. "Knight took one though, but he told me to pass a message. He'll only send it to you once you buy that figurine he told you he wanted." "Stupid otaku." "Whatever. Here." Jaws clamped around a small folded note. "Get that to Zex. At least now Fia won't have to keep freezing him every 5 minutes. Let him know that there's nothing to worry about for now, but I'll stay in town just in case." Sob. "No sleep." The small 4-legged shadow nodded, muttered a muffled, "Stay safe." "Oh," and Fia said not to stuff yourself too much, and leapt away through a green portal that flared briefly. Naruto sighed as he looked down just in time to see Rias and her entourage finally leaving. Pulling his eyes away from the now empty house, he looked towards the horizon where he could sense a group of at least 6 fallen angels headed towards this area. Deciding that there was no point in fighting them now, the man in the white coat resigned himself to a future filled with sleepless nights and faded away with his own bright golden portal. End game. Play Ayumi Hamasaki, progress. You knew this would happen, didn't you? A soft voice tinkled in the dark room, which was lit by the weak moonlight pouring through a single open window. I had some idea. A second voice drawled blandly. It's the reason I was sent in the first place. I'm Zex, best intelligence officer after all. The first voice didn't bother to question why the owner of the second voice wasn't surprised at all, and the second did not bother to wonder when she had deduced the setup. The two of them knew each other well enough to understand the other's quirks. Was it before or after we were ordered to dispose of the exiled demon? Before, was the unhesitant reply. The whole thing was simply a convenient excuse for me to be stationed here while I assessed Ria Chan's current ability. Otherwise I would have taken out the male devil earlier without interfering in your tasks. Most nobles don't take lightly to favoritism. A slender frame glided into the moonlight gracefully, a hooded face switched from staring out the window to observing his elegant companion. Akeno's already unnaturally beautiful looks were enhanced by the soft moonlight, giving her an almost ethereal level of beauty. Gracefully stepping forward, the devil dressed in a traditional sleeping kimono, her long midnight black hair was let down instead of being in its usual ponytail, stood beside the man in the white cloak at the window sill. Will there be trouble for Ria? Not really, or at least nothing that she can't handle without a little extra effort. My orders are to simply watch unless something screws with the plan. The hooded man stopped speaking, but Akeno knew that he was simply wondering if he should continue giving out restricted information. In the end it didn't really matter. He knew Akeno would keep the secret until it was too important to hide anyway, so he elaborated, despite how dumb he looks, Zex is anything but. He wants to use this as a platform to bargain with the fallen angels for a better deal than the one we got 200 years ago, so he cannot be seen as having a hand in future events. Looking like the injured party will give him a better position to negotiate from. And if his plan fails, then people start dying. They stood there silently for a while, seemingly staring out at the tree in the courtyard of the old school building where Naruto was currently staying when Akeno's left hand shot out to grip the man's rough right hand, preventing the man from escaping as she glared at him sharply. You ate someone again, didn't you? I can smell blood on you. Silence reigned again until white-clad shoulders briefly rose and lowered in a nonchalant shrug, and the male figure broke the silence. It was unavoidable. The hand grasping his hand, released it before slowly moving upwards towards his hood. This time his relaxed demeanor broke and the man shied away from Akeno's hand before retreating into the shadows where a pair of sapphire blue flames that denoted his eyes flared in the darkness. You know why I can't take this off, Akeno? He spoke flatly. Ignoring the glare coming from her friend, she replied in an equally tense tone. When was the last time you looked in a mirror? When no answer was forthcoming, Akeno snorted derisively. Since I was 5 years old, wasn't it? Stop pretending like you were ugly. Stop lying to me. The truth is you can't even remember what your own face looks like anymore, can you? Silence. A hint of desperation entered her voice. The more you eat, the more the person called Naruto Namikaze disappears. Don't you understand how everyone who cares about you feels? Watching in despair as you slowly disappear. The blue flames flickered for a moment before the anger in them softened. I won't disappear. Akeno stared angrily out the window again, resolutely holding back her tears as she chuckled humorlessly. Can you promise that? Quote. There was no answer. I didn't think so. Akeno spun around and fled the room. For a moment nothing moved in the room until booted feet slowly stepped forward into the moonlight again. Rough palms gently traced the wooden windowsill as blue flames the hood's shadow watched Akeno run out of the school building from above. The wooden sill exploded under the pressure a calloused grip was exerting on it, and a single soft word was spoken. Sorry. End game. Author's note. Petition for no yaoi yuri filters. The funny thing about fanfiction is that fanfiction begets more fanfiction. The quality of those tales sparks inspiration in the hearts and minds of those who read, and glimpse not just what the author wanted to say, but a few answers welling up from the hidden recesses of their own souls. Bad fanfiction is every bit the killer. Of inspiration and spark as good fanfiction is the fertilizer of more tales. It is with a heavy heart that I admit that my joy in fanfiction has been stifled, stunted, and outright strangled by the vast majority of the fiction being propagated. Personally, there are things I just don't want to see. The fact that Naruto Sasuke is the single most popular pairing of any sort in Naruto fanfiction is one of them. In Harry Potter, the same goes for Harry Draco and Harry Snape. These two pairings are in fact tied and outnumber any other pairings outside of Harry Ginny ones. The real trouble, of course, is the filters. The filters can search for what you want but they can't exclude what you don't. I intensely wish there was a means by which to eliminate yaoi from your search results, because frankly, of all pairings I can encounter, I most especially don't want to imagine two boys, especially prepubescent boys, which is traversing the distance from merely unpleasant to downright perverse and reprehensible. In my mind, becoming sexually involved with one another. And I say this because it just doesn't appeal to me. And so when I start leafing through the fics on the front page, it becomes increasingly apparent that FF.net is not losing, but has completely lost the war against lemon fics, considering how many of them openly proclaim yaoi and lemon in the descriptors. So work with us here please, for the love of writing. Please add a filter that excludes yaoi. For the love of God. Or else, all the good writers who don't write yaoi are going to leave and there are a lot more good writers who won't write yaoi. Then there are who do. If you agree with this rant, copy and paste this into your profile and email a complaint to ff.net regarding the lack of so necessary a tool. Before the war, demons were official broki grouped into 666 legions, each legion contained 6,666 demons, and all of them were ruled over by 66 rulers. Major houses of demonic nobility, like Bushu's House of Grimoire. Of course there was more than that, more than 6 more minor houses that weren't registered and more than 400,000 more unaffiliated demons. Buccio said that after the war between the angels, the fallen angels and the demons, more than 70% of the demons had been wiped out. In order to compensate, one of the 4 Satans, new rulers to replace the original 4 who had passed away during the war, Beelzebub, I think, had introduced the evil peace system. Under the aforementioned system, pieces like me, Bastard Kiba, Kaneko-chan and Akeno-san were granted powers befitting that of the chess pieces we were resurrected under. It was a quality versus quantity situation. Personally, I doubted that any one of us, even Akeno-san despite her power, could even match the strength of one demonic legion, much less 666. But I kept those doubts to myself. Those were the thoughts that ruminated in my head as I walked around town aimlessly, trying desperately to fit in the pieces, to understand my new role in life as a pawn under Rias Grimoire of the House of Grimoire, one of the noble houses named in the Ars Goetia. Mixed in with those thoughts were the cries of a beautiful blonde green-eyed girl as she waved farewell to me after the battle with that crazy exiled exorcist freed last night. Speaking of which, that crazy hooded man that was the Grimoire's butler had gone missing since yesterday. No one knew where he went, but Bushu simply dismissed it as if it was a regular occurrence. Akeno-san seemed rather disappointed but accepting. Though, the disappointment on her face resembled a little girl who had her favorite toy taken from her more than any other reason. Cold shivers ran down my back at the memories of Akeno-san's definition of toy and the poor idiot's roasted body. Ah, how useless. I sighed to myself tiredly and looked around the playground blankly. I had skipped school today, using my injured leg as an excuse before returning my gaze to my feet. Even after dying and being given new powers as a demon, my status as scum of society still followed me relentlessly. How useless can a man be if he can't even save a friend? Before that, did I have any right to say I was her friend? Maybe she liked her current condition. I shook my head again, like a dog trying to shrug off water. It was no use glooming around in a playground. I was weak, and so I had to get stronger. Seeing some monkey bars on the playground in front of me, I resolved to train and get stronger. Gingerly placing my weight on my injured leg, I walked up to them and grasped the iron bars, trying to do some pull-ups. Just one pull-up and my muscles were already screaming in pain as I willfully forced them beyond their limits. Grimacing, my grip on the iron bars slipped and I fell to my leg. But the injured limb failed to support the unexpected weight and I fell on my behind with a yelp. San. A melodious female voice called out. Huh, why did that soothing bell-like voice sound so familiar? Asia. A blonde girl dressed in a nun's habit ran up to me and peered worriedly into my eyes. Asia. You're alright. I couldn't keep the joy out of my voice. End game. Azazel. It's nearly time. Did you get enough data from last night? Yeah, he glanced at the clock at the bottom of his screen. Already. Nearly. But I still don't believe in using that new pawn. I just don't believe he will get strong enough, fast enough. It doesn't really matter at this point. I'm depending on you to pull through so that the plan succeeds. A hooded man slowly stepped out of the darkness. If the plan succeeds, we'll have the proof we need and we will finally be able to draw him out. An older-looking man sitting in front of a personal computer shook his head at the anger in his companion's voice. Enough, Naruto. He ordered forcefully, don't let your anger control you. The man under the hood noticeably took a few calming breaths. Sorry. Don't worry about it, I understand. Persuading Barakiel to stay away was far worse, at least you only need a reminder now and then. Is Zex ready? He's a good actor. We expect to finalize everything within 5 or 6 months. Azazel scratched his chin slowly. That's a bit too slow. Summer vacation will be over by then and they will be moving in 3 months, but I guess that's unavoidable. We would be faster. But they have a lot of support among the nobles and are stirring them up. It cannot be helped, but as a demon, fighting is in our blood, and Zex, pacifist policies will not be well received even amongst our supporters. Ajuka already predicted this, but his evil peace tournament only works as a stopgap measure at best. We do not want to impose our wills on them by force if it can be helped. Then it cannot be helped. We need peace if we, demons, the Gregorian angels alike want to survive. The Romans are sniffing around our territory again. This time Horus is with them, but Odin is holding them back for us for now. Weakened as we are, we may not be able to hold them back if it really comes down to it. Azazel paused his game and sighed in a whining manner. I really hate the centuries when the dragons show up. Everything just starts moving so fast that an old man like me can't keep up. Anyway, can you draw the insurgents out and discredit them? The nobility are too impure. Tant to be sidelined when everything starts moving. The hooded man tilted his head and seemed to be thinking, possible. I'll begin working on it. Both men went quiet as they considered their respective strategies. The only sounds were the beeping of the eroge that Azazel was playing. If this succeeds, will you explain everything to Himehima-san? I do not know. I want to talk to Barakiel first. Azazel sighed. Good luck. He still hasn't forgiven you. We both know you weren't at fault, but some things are just hard to accept. I know. He admitted, sometimes I wonder which is worst. Letting Akeno know and then choosing between her killing me or letting her father do the honors. Azazel snorted, you don't know if she will do something like that, besides you're too hard to kill so easily, old friend. When was the last time you actually died when someone killed you? The last person who managed to even push you that far was Jupiter, wasn't it? He managed to blow your spine apart and tear your head off. All it managed to do was piss you off before you shoved Mars' head up his ass, and to top it all off, you seduced his daughter right out from under his nose. Whoa, hold up, I didn't do jack shit. I was just standing there, trying to fit Musclehead's head up Beard Dude's ass, then bam, she's suddenly there trying to rape me. While I'm sticking her brother's head up her father's ass. The faceless blonde replied incredulously. Goddess of wisdom and warfare, he pointed out dryly. So what? I was literally just standing there. Yeah, come to think of it. She wasn't the only one, was she? For some reason, all you need to do is stand there and girls flock to you. Okay, let's change topics, shall we? How's Yusaka these days? She raped you yet? Naruto desperately looked around before finally glimpsing his way out. Slowly, he hooked his leg unnoticed around an innocuous wire and pulled. Azazel's PC immediately went black. Yeah, my game. I haven't saved yet. Nuu. Naruto chuckled as the fallen demon began crying in a corner and shimmered out of the house soundlessly. End game. Ah, that was fun. I had taken Asia to eat lunch at the nearest fast food restaurant before spending the rest of the day together with her at a shopping center and a nearby arcade. Hi. But before that, she frowned mournfully at the bandaged arm and leg that had been bothering me the entire time. I thought I had hidden it well enough, but I realized that she probably remembered my being defeated handily from last night's battle and hadn't been deceived. "You're injured." Helping me up, she supported me to a park bench before gently laying her palms across my thigh. "Yoo-hoo. A girl is touching me. My thighs. Damn you lucky bastard. Wah, wait. Now's not the time for something like that." A soft green glow began emanating from her palms, and immediately a cool soothing feeling began to spread from the center of where her palms were touching me. I looked at my thigh in amazement. Wow. Asia, that was amazing. I moved my limb back and forth, there's no pain at all. Even Bushu couldn't heal me completely. The blonde girl simply smiled beatifically before her expression clouded and an awkward silence fell between us. Your sacred gear can heal people, huh? Compared to mine, it's so much more useful. She looked up at me. For some reason she looked almost desperately hopeful. Really? I was useful? Well, yeah. I don't know anyone else that can heal like this. She smiled again. The smile contained so much self-loathing that it didn't suit the kind and beautiful Asia at all. Just as I was about to say so, she spoke again, so softly I almost didn't hear her. A few years ago, in Europe, there was a girl who had been abandoned by her parents. She grew up in a church nearby with a lot of other orphans. So the girl grew up in a strong Christian environment and was a devout follower. One day, outside the church, she found an injured puppy. That little girl couldn't bear to see the puppy in so much pain, so she brought the little puppy to the matron, but the matron, the wisest, kindest woman the little girl knew, couldn't do anything other than offer to put it out of its misery. As Asia drew a shuddering breath, Eyes just listened quietly, not quite sure why the blonde girl was telling him this story. Desperate to help the puppy and unwilling to see it die, the little girl prayed to God desperately, the hardest she had ever done in her life. Suddenly, as if God had answered her prayers, the puppy in her arms began to glow with a pure green light, and within moments, the puppy who was almost dying seconds ago was suddenly completely well and energetic again. The matron was shocked and immediately called the church's authorities. After that day, the church realized that girl had a special power to heal anybody, the power of divine protection they called it. From then on, day and night, the little girl healed anybody they brought to her. Sick or dying, she healed them. And she was called the Holy Maiden. Her fingers twisted the cloth of her nun habit. The girl was tired from healing people every day, but she didn't mind. For the first time in her life, she was useful. She was wanted. She was happy. Then suddenly one day, she found an injured man in an alley outside the church on her way to the baker's. So she did what she did best, the little girl healed the injured man. The man thanked her and kissed her forehead before promising to be back for her before disappearing. From that day on, they screamed and scolded me for tainting the name of Holy Maiden. I was not supposed to heal demons, for that injured man in the alley was a demon. Such a power could only be from the devil and the little girl, the heretic. The unclean witch was excommunicated from the church. The cute blonde Asia began crying and I grimaced as I lifted one hand, desperately wanting to comfort her, to put it around her shaking shoulders and support her. But I wasn't brave enough to, and let my hand fell to my side uselessly. The girl who was respected as a holy maiden was now feared as a witch. So the Catholic Church kicked her out. The group that picked her up was a group of exiled exorcists. In other words, she had to get divine protection from the fallen angels. But the girl never forgot to pray to God. She also never forgot to thank God. But the girl was still cast away. God didn't save her. What shocked her the most was that there was not even a single person that was willing to defend her. There was no one who cared about her. It's because I didn't pray enough. See, it's because I'm clumsy. I'm so stupid that I can't even eat a burger by myself. The girl wiped her tears while laughing. I didn't know what to say to her. I didn't know what to say after finding out her devastating past. What could I even say? Someone like me who had the most average life before accidentally stumbling on this power. Anything I tried to say, to comfort her, would only be patronizing her. This is also a trial that God gave me. Since I'm a clumsy nun, God gave me this trial, so I have to endure it. She was laughing as if she was talking to herself. You don't have to say anything anymore. I'm sure I will make lots of friends one day. I have a dream. I want to go buy flowers with a friend, and also go buy books and talk. She was full of tears. I couldn't look at her anymore. She had been enduring it the whole time. She had been waiting for God to save her the whole time and was hiding her feelings all along. A deep burning ignited in my chest. I wanted to rail out, scream at God even though I was a devil. Or maybe it was precisely because I was a devil. Why? I know many people probably had this thought before. But really why? Yeah, I understand some people need to face trials to get stronger, but why the difference in hardness? Was God playing some sort of video game where he adjusted the difficulty level? How can you tell the strength in a person's faith if you judge everyone with different trials? My hands finally found enough courage to grip her small dainty fingers in mine. You won't be alone anymore. I promise. I don't care if you are a fallen angel or whatever, I'll be your friend. Her wide green eyes widened at my declaration and she hid her face again, but I could see a small smile spreading on her face. Even if I am clumsy. Even if I can't speak Japanese. Even if I don't have any common sense. I don't care, so what if you can speak Japanese, I'll teach you. I am clumsy and don't have a lot of common sense either, so we'll both be clumsy and lack common sense together. Then we'll find them together. You'll really be my friend. I couldn't help the smile. Yeah. I'll be in your care, Asia-san. Ah, how cute. Two pathetic people consoling each other in their uselessness. A tinkling voice interrupted us. That voice. I would never forget that voice. The same voice that politely asked me to die and laughed delightfully as its owner killed me. I immediately swung to face the fallen angel. She stood, or rather float, in mid-air with her wings spread wide open in a magnificent pose, dressed in some weird leather outfit that had hid a lot less than it revealed. Yuma-chan. Rainal-sama. Rainal. I am. Deately stepped in front of Asia to shield her from my psycho ex-girlfriend. What do you want, Yuma? Haven't you hurt her enough? Cuckoo. Hurt her? Why would I do anything like that? She's someone really important to us. Her wings flapped once and she was suddenly behind us. Fast. I immediately pulled Asia behind a stone pillar as the exotically dressed fallen angel looked at me with disdain. You on the other hand. Really? Don't you even have enough decency to die properly? Not to mention you came back, as a demon no less. How absolutely disgusting. What do you want with Asia? I repeated my question with as much anger as I could muster. Yuma, no. Rainal simply looked at me with disgust. You don't have the right to speak with me, or disgusting being. Now unhand my property. A beatific smile touched her black lips as she gazed hungrily at the girl beside me. Now Asia, it's time to go home. Don't you know it's useless to run away? Run away? Did that mean Asia had escaped from them? No. I don't want to go back to a place where people hurt others for no reason. A place like that isn't my home. Asia's loud declaration confirmed my thoughts and I grinned, looking far more bravely than I felt. I stepped out from the pillar. There, you heard her. Now leave Asia alone or else. To emphasize my words, I summoned the blood-red gauntlet on my left hand with a thought. The fallen angel simply gave the gauntlet a sneer. I was told that your sacred gear was a dangerous one before by the higher-ups. But it looks like they were wrong. The fallen angel started to laugh as if she found it amusing. What's so funny? Your sacred gear is one of the ordinary ones. It's called the twice critical. It doubles the possessor's power for a certain time. But doubling your power is not a threat to me. Seriously, it suits a low-class devil like you. The ability that doubles the possessor's power. Is that the power of my sacred gear? And she said it's one of the ordinary. But that's good enough for now. I need to evade her somehow, and run away with Asia. But where to? The school. I can't cause trouble for Bushu and the others. My house. How should I explain it to my parents? Damn it. I don't even know where to take Asia, even though I'm her friend. I will think about it later. First of all, I need to beat this fallen angel in front of me. Shit. It's the worst case that I have to fight my ex-girlfriend. Why do I always get into this mess? Sacred gear. Activate. Damn it. You can double my power, right? Then activate. Then the jewel on the gauntlet started to glow. Boost. There was a sound. Then I felt power flowing into me. Is this what it means to double my powers? Yes. With this. Kirk. An amazing amount of pain flooded my senses and liquid flowed up my throat. Splashing onto my shirt. It was blood. Embedded in my stomach was another one of those white glowing spears. Even if your power is doubled, you can't even evade this small spear I made. Even if the power of one is doubled, it's only two. You can't narrow the power gap between us. Do you understand now, low-class devil-kun? I fell down. This is bad. Light is poisonous. It's poisonous for a devil. And I was hit in my stomach. This is. I had prepared myself for the intense pain followed by certain death, but I didn't feel any pain at all. When I looked, Asia was healing my wound. She had put her hand on my stomach and was healing my wound for me. The spear of light was getting smaller, and eventually disappeared. I didn't feel even the slightest pain. Instead, I felt Asia's warmth. Asia, if you don't want that devil to be killed, come with me. Your sacred gear is essential for our plan. Your sacred gear, Twilight Healing, is special, unlike the sacred gear of the devil over there. If you don't come with me, I will kill the devil. Raynal gave a cruel order. I'm the hostage. Like hell I would. Shut up. I can defeat you. Yes, I understand. Without hearing me, Asia accepted the fallen angel's order. Asia, San, thank you for today. It was really fun. Ooh, I will never allow Asia to follow a monster like you. Boost. Asia yelped. As she felt something run past her with incredible speed, even Raynal seemed too shocked to react. OORRAA. Blood-red metal made contact with Raynal's cheek, throwing the fallen angel clear AC. Ross the clearing to crash onto the fountain. I stood there panting, with the water of the fountain reaching up to my ankles. Half of myself felt exuberant that I had actually landed a real hit on her. Turning around, I grasped Asia's hand. Hurry, we have to leave before she gets up. We have to get away. However, Asia stood still, frozen like a statue with wide eyes staring at something behind me. Feeling chills run down my back, I turned around as well, just in time to see black wings forcefully explode outwards, blasting blocks of stone and water everywhere. Cuckoo, a mad laugh echoed, you actually dared to hit my face. My beautiful face. I thought I was being nice by giving you a chance, but you had to go and do something stupid like this. A low-class devil like you, no one will care if you die right. Kya. I instinctively lifted the red gauntlet up again, in time to barely block a spear of light, but time seemed to slow down and my eyes widened as Yuma reappeared above me. Two spears swinging in her hands as if to pierce my eyeballs. There was no time to block or to run. Even now, the spear that she had already thrown was screeching against the sacred gear. No matter what I did, I was dead. Sorry Bushu. A huge blast of wind hit the clearing. A massive blade of light chopped the first spear in half easily before destroying the spears in Raynal's hand. I only had enough time to gape at a large, massive winged shadow as it blocked my view of Raynal before the massive wing flicked open and hit my chest. Cack. My back hurt. The punch had thrown me into the pillar. I could feel cement crumbling behind me. Raynal, what is the meaning of this? You know what Kokobil's orders were. A deep gruff voice that sounded remarkably like stones grating on each other managed to pierce my hazy hearing. I exerted as much strength as I could to open my eyes. The large shadow now seemed even larger. A bald man, twice as tall as Raynal, held her aloft by her throat. As he glared at her with glowing white eyes. For the first time ever, I realized that Raynal actually looked scared. Sariel-sama, I was just doing what we were meant to do. He's just a lowly demon. Enough excuses. Low or not, that boy already belongs to someone. I will not permit someone to risk Kokobil's plan over her pathetic failure of an ego. The deep voice grated out again. Anger and hatred flared on Rayan's face at the insult, but she lowered her face and acquiesced. Asia-san, here, now. Without a word, only spared me one last look before she timidly stepped over to W. Here the huge man grabbed the back of her nun habit and threw her on his shoulder like a sack of potatoes. I wanted to cry out and stretched out my hand. The huge man simply gave a contemptuous look. Don't waste your time coming for her. His 6-foot-long black wings flapped once. With a loud creaking sound, the already weakened rock pillar wavered once before tumbling completely all over me. I teared blackness almost gratefully, but the burning anger deep within me never left. End game. Whose voice is that calling my name? Why can't I move? What was I doing? Oh, that's right. Asia. Brown eyes snapped open and I lunged up, trying to grab a phantom of a blonde-haired girl, Asia. Eyes. Oof. What is this? What is this soft and heavy yet firm feel over me? More importantly, why does it hurt? Eyes ee. The familiar voice repeated loudly in my ear. Bu Bushu. My arms automatically wound around her soft body. I'm alright. The red-haired princess immediately pulled back, causing the boy to look rather bewildered at her actions. Bushu. Tearing up slightly, Rias slapped the brown boy with all her might. I told you not to get involved with that nun. Now look at you. We were barely able to get you out in time. Eyes frantically looked around. He was somehow back in the clubroom. Akeno-san, Kaneko-chan and Kiba were all sitting around him. All of them with varying degrees of relief on their faces. Rocks. Heavy. Kaneko softly said in her customary diffident manner. Ahaha, you must have been the one to save me. Thanks Kaneko-chan. Bushu also. Oh. Eyes turned around, ignoring the pain on his cheek to look at his club president. She had his back to him with her arms crossed and her cheeks puffed up. Arigato Bushu. I'm sorry for disobeying you. Then are you ready to stop getting involved? She threw her question over her shoulder. Eyes smiled softly but shook her head. I am very grateful to you Bushu, for giving me this life back again. But if I don't save her, I cannot call myself a man again. The red-haired girl steamed silently while the other club members awkwardly looked at Akeno for answers. Seeing the looks from Kiba and Kaneko, the club's vice president sighed. Ma. It's not like I can't understand your feelings Eyes-san. But Bushu is just looking out for you. Akeno-san said with a ladylike tone and a dainty hand to her cheek. Even if your will to save her is strong, your body is torn apart. If you go, you will most certainly die. As it is, Bushu has spent a lot of energy just to keep you alive. Eyes glanced down at his bandaged body, before resolutely setting his jaw, groaning slightly as he got up. He grabbed his tattered school coat. I know. But I cannot just leave a girl with monsters like that Sariel and Yuma. Rias, ear twitched and she finally deigned to speak again, although she kept her back to her pawn. Sariel. You are sure that was Sariel? Eyes paused while toning his shirt and thought for a while. Yeah, that's what Yuma called him. Akeno shared a look with Rias before nodding, taking her best friend's silence as her cue to speak. Then that is even more reason not to go Eyes-san. Sariel is one of the original 20 fallen angels, Kokobeel's personal lieutenant. Even though he is a second-tier fallen angel, even Bushu, no, even if Bushu and I attack together, we cannot confidently win against an original. Eyes gained a look of despair on his face. Then what about Naruto-san? You said he was powerful, right? He should be able to fight. If it is that shitty pervert. Akeno-san looked like she was swallowing something particularly hard to stomach. Then, yes, he will be able to win, but unfortunately we do not know where he is. He might have even already left town on another mission for Grimori-sama. A completely hopeless fight. I'm really sorry Bushu. Eyes silently thought to himself as he began buttoning up his shirt again and put on his shoes while everyone watched him. I'm going. Everyone watched silently. Wait. Eyes' hand froze, inches from the cold metal of the doorknob. Just don't forget what a pawn is used for. If you insist on going into enemy territory, that ability will be useful. Thank you Bushu. Eyes stepped through the door and started jogging down the dark hallways of Kuo Academy. The sounds of his rubber soles squeaking in the linoleum only made the whole experience creepier than it should have. It didn't take long for him, going at full demon speed to reach open air despite his injured body. Taking one deep breath to steel himself, Eyes began running again. Hurry! An indifferent monotone spoke from slightly behind him, shocking Eyes into the air. Kaneko-chan. Moo, that's mean. Only noticing Kaneko but not me. Another voice echoed from his left. Kiba. Ahaha, what are you doing? You have to save your princess, don't you? Don't stop running. Hesitantly Eyes nodded and the three of them began loping down the road again. Thanks you guys. Kaneko nodded mutely while Kiba flashed him a bright cheery smile, complete with white flashing teeth. This guy is definitely a bastard Casanova. End game. Was it really alright to let them go alone Rias? Akeno voiced softly. What could I have done? Seeing the usually meek and undisciplined eyes burn so brightly. I couldn't bear to tell him no. Foo, you liked it, didn't you? It made you think of him taking you to bed forcefully, didn't I? Foo. The red-haired princess allowed a wry smile to touch her lips at her best friend's words. I'm not you, Akeno. Besides, who said they are going alone? Urara. Should I get ready? Yes. At least we can provide them with a diversion. The heiress of the House of Grimoire turned to look out at the moonlit sky. He burned so brightly. Now we can only hope it's not the brightness of a dying light. She murmured quietly. Shouldn't we ask your brother for help? Or at least, try to contact that shitty hentai lolicon. I've already sent a message by familiar, but I doubt any reinforcements they send will reach in time. In any case, we have to get going. Very well. End game. Doesn't seeing that girl being hung up on the cross just makes you feel so excited, Sariel-sama? A skimpily dressed woman flounced up to a large man. The gray pallor of his skin simply accentuated his stoic attitude. Her bright attitude in stark contrast with the damp, moldy surroundings of the abandoned church's basement. Eyes the call. R of granite traveled from the crucified girl to the flushed fallen angel beside him. Do not mistake me for someone like you, Rainal. Just get the procedure over with. The faster Kokobile gets the sacred gear, the better. The mountain-like man beside her grunted in a bass monotone. Clang clang clang. Both of them stiffened at the sound of the proximity wards around the church wailing, oh my. It looks like we have visitors, don't we, Sariel-sama? He simply grunted in reply, causing the erotically dressed woman to feign a cheerful laugh, although inside she was burning with loathing for the huge bald man. Don't worry. She tittered energetically, mostly because she knew how much it annoyed the large man. I already predicted this. Calwarner, Miltelt and Danesik are outside guarding the perimeter. The front is being guarded by that weirdo Freed. The large man tilted his bald head for a few moments before grunting again. They will die, or are already dead. Either extract the sacred gear now, or die with them. Anger flared up on Rainal's face before she toned it down again. Of course, you are Kokobile's guard dog, aren't you? Everything you do is for your master. How sad it is for you to love him so much. And do so much for him, and yet someone like me has his love, she simpered with a false smile. His lips twitched in an almost smile before the stony demeanor returned. Along with it was a massive brightly glowing blade. He glared ferociously at the woman beside him. Finish the ceremony. Rainal smirked victoriously, thinking that she had finally hit a nerve. ND sashayed over to where a group of priests were ominously chanting, invoking an old fallen angel ceremony. The doors to the basement exploded inwards and 3 figures darted through the debris cautiously. The fallen angel named Sariel simply remained in the shadows and watched the proceedings stonily as the blonde and the small girl began beating a path through the priests for the brown-haired boy. All the while, Rainal was continuously taunting the trio with harsh demeaning words, confident that her larger colleague would stop their advancement towards the altar. Behind the scantily dressed Rainal, the blonde girl that they had captured began glowing with an ethereal green glow. At the same time, she began screaming and crying, writhing in her chains as if an invisible being was torturing her. His fingers began twitching as if itching to form a massive blade again and swing it against his adversaries. Outside, he could already feel the 3 fallen angel guards perish. Very soon, the Grimoire heiress will be here as well. What should he do? End game. San, a weak voice emanated from the slip of a girl in my arms. She seemed so small, so frail, compared to how she usually was. No, Yuma. Kahehe. What? Go on, I was enjoying the show. A dissonant female voice filled with malice answered his call. You bitch. What did you do to Asia? Me. Rainal affected a look of mock innocence. Nothing, I just took out her sacred gear, that's all. Don't worry. She'll be fine. She'll just be dead. What? Heal her. Kahaha. It's no use. People who lose their sacred gears will inevitably die. Even if she gets it back, she'll still die. Not that I'm going to give it back anyway. You're nothing like the sweet soft Yuma-chan that I know. Did I really touch your heart? That sweet Yuma-chan. I was really going to take care of you, really love you, you know. Foo, yes, you did take care of me. When I was in trouble you managed to take care of it right away and made sure I didn't get hurt. But did you know that I did all of that on purpose? Because it was funny to see your face when you were so confused. Quote. I made sure I planned our first date carefully. To make sure it would become a great date. Ahahaha. Yeah, you were right. It was a very royal date. Thanks to it, I was very bored. Quote. Yuma-chan. To end it, I chose to kill you at dawn. Beautiful. Right. What do you think, Aiz-kun? My rage was past its limit. I shouted my anger at her. Rainily. Ahahaha. I don't want a rotten brat like you calling my name. The laughter ended with a powerful sneer. I'll kill you. Stop, Hyodo-kun. Kiba's tenor voice stopped my charge at Rainal short. Focus on Asia, she's your priority now. Get her out of here. We'll cover you. Quote. Cover. I sent the laughing Rainal one last poisonous glare before running back down the stairs, dashing through the path that Kiba's swords and Kaniko's fists had made. Kiba. Kaniko-chan. You go ahead. We will handle here. Quote. Please go quickly. But. Just go. Damn. Kiba. Kaniko-chan. Both of you are showing off too much. But now I will have to rely on them. My senior devils can't die in a place like this. Kiba. Kaniko-chan. When I get back, call me, Aiz. Definitely. We are comrades. That's what I said to them. I felt like the two of them smiled. I left the place and went straight to the passage at once. End game. As soon as Aiz had left the basement, the knight and the rook spun around to face the small army of advancing priests. Kukuku, just the two of you. Is it noble or is it selfish? Don't you hate him for sacrificing the two of you for a dead girl? Kiba smiled beatifically despite the injuries he had been steadily gathering during the fight. He is our nakama. He said confidently as if that sentence resolved everything. The girl dressed in leather strips atop the altar bristled. Nakama. Nakama. What? Do you think this is some cheesy shonen manga? Kill them. The army of dark priests began moving again, causing Kiba and Kaniko to tense. Enough. A quiet steely tone echoed through the basement as a massive man stepped out of the shadows with heavy steel-booted footsteps. Sariel. What are you doing? We have to kill them before they manage to report this to the other demons. A large blade made of some sort of D in black alloy sprung out of the man's shoulder. Kiba and Kaniko immediately stiffened in order to guard from the attack. Gwa. Both of them blinked in surprise. The screams had not come from either of them. In fact, that huge mountain of a man's blade had decapitated an entire row of priests. Sariel. The large man began to chuckle, shocking all the fallen angels into silence. They had ever heard anything that even remotely resembled humor from Kokobeel's lieutenant before. Sariel. Sorry, not home. The man's thick granite gray skin began to bubble as his massive frame slowly shrew. NK and morphed into a familiar hooded figure, complete with a white cloak decorated with red flames at the bottom. On a completely unrelated side note, he tasted like beef. Like really old beef. It was goddamn chewy. Sariel-sama. The gathered army of priests echoed the dead Grigori's name in shock. Only Rainal still had the presence of mind to quietly sneak away while everybody was still shocked. Using the priests as cover to escape, sensing that the tide of battle had taken a turn for the worse. Without turning back to the two younger ones he spoke somberly. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have allowed this to happen. His empty hands lifted up in front of his chest in clenched fists. I shouldn't have let this happen, I was too indecisive. Hearing those words from that boy. I was wrong. His final roar reverberated in the chamber as his hands once again formed into those massive ominous blades made of black and red alloy. End game. Asia, come on, don't sleep, stay with me. Didn't you promise me that we would get smarter and stronger together? That we would learn Japanese together? I desperately begged from the girl who was laid out on a wooden pew. Her me was so small and pale I couldn't bear to think about what was happening. Asia's whisper sounded like it came from far away. Yes, we are friends, then we'd go to school together. Yes, that's it. We'll go to school together. Tears began to well up in my eyes. I have two friends, Motohama and Matsuda, even though they're not very good people, I'll introduce you to them alright. Mise. I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. Yes, I promise, just don't leave me. Ars. Why are you crying, Aiz-san? She tried to lift her hand to touch my cheeks, but her strength failed her. Desperately I caught those slender, tiny hands in my fists. No, no, don't go. You'll be fine, Asia, Bushu will be here. She'll fix everything. That's alright. Her breathing was increasingly labored. I'm already very happy. She managed one last smile. Thank you. Those were Asia Argento's last words. Uuuohhhh. Hey, God. You are there, right, God. Devils and angels exists, so you do exist as well, right? God. You were watching, right? You were watching all of this, right? I shouted at the ceiling of the church. I didn't know who was going to answer me. But I had to shout at heaven. Please don't take this girl away. Please. I beg you. She hasn't done anything. She just wanted a friend. I will be her friend forever. So please. I want this girl to smile forever. Hey please. God. Even though I screamed towards heaven, there was no one to answer me. Did this happen because I turned into a devil? Did you abandon her because I was her friend? I grind my teeth with regret. I had no power. I didn't have any power at all. If I had more power as a devil. If I had power to at least save Asia. Even if I regret it now, she will never smile again. A devil is repenting in a place like this. Or were you wishing for something? The voice I heard from behind was that of Rainal. When I turned around there was a fallen angel smirking at me. Look at this. This is the wound I got from the night boy while I was coming here. A green light, a very familiar green light emanated from her hands, and like the last time I had seen that glow, that wound closed right up. I didn't want to look. I knew that the fallen angel was simply trying to make me angrier by rubbing salt into my wounds. Fuhuhu, even though that bastard Sariel died, I managed to get the sacred gear, so it's a mission complete, plus at the very least I can take my anger out on you before I escape. It's such a good day. I ignored her. Hey, you know what? Maybe after I kill you, I'll take that girl's body. I know a lot of weirdos that would like to play with it. That was the last straw. Power. I desired power. Power to break that grinning face. That face that had once contained a sweet and loving smile in my memory was forever tainted by that monster named Rainal. Schlick. Ka. Kyahaha. Rainal brayed that annoying laugh, stopped by one spear in the leg. Do you really think by charging at me while screaming, you will gain some sort of power? What is that, idiot? Go back to your stupid computer games. I gripped the spear of light that had pierced my leg. Ignoring the smell and sound of sizzling meat as the flesh of my palm burnt. Schlick. Wooah. All strength left my body as another spear left her hand and hit my other thigh. I collapsed to my knees. No matter how hard I fought it. 2 spears, intensely burning my flesh from the inside. I didn't care. I wanted to hit that smiling face that was swimming through the haze of pain so badly. Give her back. A mumble escaped my lips as I began crawling towards my ex-girlfriend. Even if you are a devil, your body can only take so much. I don't care. Give Asia back. Dragon Booster. The sacred gear on my left arm responded to my shout. The jewel in the gauntlet made a bright shine. Some mysterious mark appeared on the gauntlet. At the same time, power flowed into my body. From my left arm with the sacred gear to my whole body. But it was no use, my legs wouldn't respond. As if I would give up because of something like that. I began crawling again. You still won't give up. I will explain it so even a dummy like you can understand. It's a simple power difference. I have a power of 1000. You have a power of 1. You cannot shorten the gap between us. Even with the ability of that sacred gear. The power doubled is only 2. It can't be helped. How can you win against me? Ahahahaha. Boost. I don't care if it's 2 vs 1000 or minus 1000 vs 1000. That face, I swear, I will break it. Heartbeat. I grasped the spears again with both my hands and completely ignored the pain from my hands. This pain is nothing compared to what Asia must have felt. Ggggga. The spears slowly moved from my flesh. The tears and drool that dripped on them sizzled like meat on a hot pan. Remarkable. A low-class devil pulling out the spear of light made by a fallen angel. But it's futile. My light isn't flashy, but has a high killing ability against devils. The density of the light is strong. So strong that it becomes the light blade of the priests. Getting hurt even once will be hard to heal. Even for a middle-class devil. For a low-class devil like you, this is the limit. Foo, you can't look down on the damage caused by the power of light, you know. Especially my light. This woman just can't stop taunting people. Cling. The spears clattered onto the floor and slowly fizzled out. Clap clap clap. Not bad. Now what? You pulled them out but you can barely stand. Even from here I can see your legs are shaking from just trying to stand. Are you going to pray to God? God is useless, didn't you know? I prayed to him before but my prayer was never granted. Asia-chan also prayed. Now look at her. Pray. I'm a devil, how can I pray to God? Maybe if I prayed to Satan. A tired chuckle bubbled out of my chest. Wah, what are you laughing for? Oi, Satan, or whatever, you can hear me right. I'm going to bash this stupid woman in front of me, so will you make sure that no one interferes? I seriously don't want anyone to interfere. I also don't need any backup. I will do it myself. And my legs are fine as well. I will get up on my own. So make it a one-on-one fight. It's a good place. I think I can handle the pain with my rage. Just one hit is okay. Please let me hit her. My foot was moving. I had already lost sensation in my legs, or rather, just moving it by a millimeter gave me intense pain. But it still moved. My body was shaking without stopping. But still, my body was trying to stand, bit by bit. It hurts. My whole body hurts. But it's moving. I can still move. I just have to endure it until I hit her once. Exclamation mark. Impossible. Your body isn't in a condition to move. Because of the damage of light. That's right, keep talking dumbass. I was getting close to Rainal, who had a shocked look on her face. I finally got up straight. I was right in front of her eyes. With my feet shaking and lots of blood flowing out of me. Hey, X. I've been through a lot because of you. You can't stand. A low-class devil can't stand up with those wounds. The lights are burning your insides from within your body. A low-class devil who doesn't have the ability to ease the effect of light can't endure it. Yeah, it hurts. It really hurts. I'm even close to losing my consciousness. But I can still endure it because of the hatred and grudge I have against you. I glared straight at my opponent without even blinking. My next hit will be my last blow. If I use it, I will fall down. That's why I have to finish it with my next hit. I can't miss my target. Hey, my sacred gear. You still have the power to punch this thing in front of me, right? Then let's finish it. Explosion. The sound from the jewel sounded especially strong. The jewel shone, piercingly. Such a bright light. My eyes were dazzled. But unlike the light of a fallen angel, this light didn't give damage to me but gave me peace. Just getting touched by this light felt like I was flowing with more power. Similar to the light of Asia. So there is a light that is positive to devils. I took a step forward. The blood splashed onto the ground from the wound. I also coughed some blood. Looks like I'm in a critical condition. There are also no limits to the pain I'm feeling reaching my brain. But it's okay, because I can still move. My gauntlet is still flowing out with power. When I was against Rainal at evening, I was scared of the power difference between Rainal and myself. Possibly the devil instinct within me was making me shake because of the absolute power difference between us. I thought that I could never beat her. But it was different now. Power I was receiving from this gauntlet was insane. But somehow, I knew. Possibly because I was a sacred gear possessor. I knew that this power I was feeling wouldn't last forever, and that it had a limited time. If I used it even once against the enemy, then it would be all used up. Even though the sacred gear wasn't telling me verbally, it was telling me physically. I made a posture to punch. I had no experience in fighting. But it would be over with one hit. My target is the shit in front of me. I'm definitely going to hit her, and I'm not going to miss. Impossible. What is this? Why? Things like this can't happen. That sacred gear is supposed to be the twice critical, a sacred gear that doubles the power of the possessor. It can't be. It's impossible. Why has your power surpassed mine? The level of magical power I'm feeling, the wave of demonic power is that of a middle class, no, that of a high-class devil. My power was that of a high-class devil. Is it because of my sacred gear? Weren't you supposed to be a sacred gear that doubles my power? The only high-class devil that I have met is Bushu, so it means that I am currently about the same strength as her. Lies. This is all lies. I am the fallen angel that has the ultimate healing power. I turned into a superior being by obtaining this, twilight healing. I received the right to be loved by Kokubile-sama. I wouldn't lose to someone low like you. Rainal once again had spears of light in both her hands. Ping! I hit it to the side with my fist. The spears of light disappeared. Reina. Ye's expression changed to pale blue after seeing me reflect her spears. No. Rainal got her black wings out and was about to fly away. Was she trying to run away? Hey, you were looking down and laughing at me till a few seconds ago. Are you running away as soon as you find out that you can't win? Such a spoiled girl. But I won't let you escape. Like hell I would. My body reacted without thinking. Before I knew it, I was already beside her with one arm clamped around arm I grabbed was surprisingly unreliable and slim and made her look weak. I pulled her arm towards me. I won't let her go. I won't let you get away, fool. I'm superior. Blow away, you shitty angel. Damn you, low-class devil. Orya. The gauntlet released all of its energy. All the strength gathered in my left arm concentrated in my fist. I used that fist to punch straight and accurately the enemy I detested. Hit. It made a very loud sound. My fist hit her face right at the point, but I didn't stop there. I wanted to punch through her. I promised, didn't I? I'll break that face of yours. Rainal went flying backwards with my punch. The fallen angel crashed through the wall with an incredible explosion of dust, plaster and sound. Ha, ha ha ha. Without realizing it, I had sagged back onto the floor and began laughing like an insane man. That felt really good. I finally paid her back with interest. It felt really good, but not as good as seeing Asia smile. Yo, you finally beat a fallen angel, huh? Ha, ha, where the hell were you, you bastard? Aha, here and there. Kiba put my arm around his shoulder and supported me so that I could hobble over to Asia. End game. Play Akeno featuring Bless for Susei no Aquarion. Ku. That little bastard really did it. That low-class demon actually hit me. She began scrambling to her feet to escape but. Shick. A black and red metallic spear pierced her thigh. Ku. Kaya. Pain, pain, it hurts. She whimpered piteously. A menacing voice echoed in the clearing outside the church where Rainal had landed. Really? I noticed you enjoyed putting your spears in that boy, so I thought I would be nice and do the same to you. It can't be that. You're so pathetic that you can give but can't take, is it? The voice taunted her similar to how she taunted her own prey. Kaya. No help. The girl desperately tried to scramble away from the hooded man who had appeared out of nowhere, limping badly. IISEE. Save me. The cloaked man simply waited calmly for the people inside the church to arrive. Just to be safe though, he flicked his hand, stabbing 2 more black rods through the girl's abdomen and shoulder. Kyaha. Anyone. Saw save me. It hurts. The Grimoire group slowly hobbled out of the church to find Naruto waiting for them. Quote, what do you want to do with her, Rias Ojo-sama? He asked in a strange businesslike tone. The red-haired girl simply glanced back at Eyes, signifying that it was his choice. As Eyes, please. I know you still love me, I love you too. Save me. Help me defeat these monsters, then we can live together forever. Aiza's eyes slowly traveled from Bushu to Naruto, ignoring the girl's nearly incoherent babbles. He nodded once, goodbye. Angling his body slightly to face the red-haired princess, he simply gave a nod of acquiescence. Please handle this, Bushu. No. If you won't help me, I'll take at least one of you down with me. A spear of light flared in her only good arm and she ran it through the motionless man's heart behind her with a malicious smile. Naruto. Various concerned voices reverberated in the clearing. The hooded man stood still before appearing to look down at the spear piercing his chest in simple disdain. Using 2 fingers, he slowly overwhelmed Rainal's grip and pulled it out of his chest, leaving a gaping hole and a destroyed heart in his torso. A heart that immediately reformed and a gaping hole that was shortly filled with pale flesh as if he had never been pierced by a deadly spear of solid light. Try harder. It itches. Ni-san. Please dispose of the trash. Her desperation and hypocrisy is too ugly to watch. Understood. On the ground, below the EXCH. Ainge between the red-haired princess and her butler, Rainal gaped at the man. What are you? No demon has managed to withstand a hit from my spears of light like that. From his vantage point, I Sei could see a humorless smile spread across the hooded man's lips. Two bright blue pinpricks of flames lit underneath the hood and his deep voice suddenly took on a choral quality, as if there were any people speaking the same thing all at once. What am I? A massive red and black executioner's blade formed out of one hand. I am Legion, and I am about to end you. End game. Later that night, a shadowy figure slowly crept into the attic of the old schoolhouse building where the occult club usually held its meetings. The small room was dark as usual, its single window was locked, the single ray of moonlight was the only source of light in the room. Stealthily, the figure dressed in sheer nightgown held her breath and slowly crawled onto the small cot where she could faintly see the breathing outline of a sleeping person, gently lowering herself onto the cot's side with barely enough space to fit a piece of paper between their skin. Did we ruin your mission? Not fooled by his attempt to appear asleep at all, she asked in a quiet voice to preserve the stillness of the room. Nothing that wasn't already ruined. What's wrong? The figure was quiet, he knew there was no point in hiding it, but it was hard to vocalize his failures out loud. Slowly his arms wrapped around the girl sharing his bed and squeezed, letting the tiredness in his body bleed out as he did so. I let my anger cloud my judgments, sacrificing an innocent girl for my own goals. Faye, I can't believe I stooped so low. She snuggled deeper into his embrace. It was all right. Rias managed to bring her back. They're both nice people. I'm sure they will forgive you. One finger slowly traced the outline of her body. They might. But I'm not sure if I can forgive myself. Watching Ria's pawn cry. Listening he made those promises to a dying friend. Watching an innocent girl slowly die. It wasn't worth it. The cost was too high and she paid for my indecision. He chuckled, I think I need a vacation. She shivered slightly as his finger reached the nape of her neck. Where? Dunno. Will you come? In your dreams, you shitty hentai. She felt lips run along the back of her shoulders as his arm wrapped around her waist and draw her closer, sharing the warmth, says the girl who crept into my bed. She rolled around in his arms, and touched his face gently. He wasn't wearing his hood or his cloak. But because of the darkness she couldn't see his face. Only slight reflection of the silver moonlight in his blue eyes. Slowly, she leaned in. Two fingers gently laid on her lips and stopped her. No. Why? These aren't my lips. I don't want to kiss you with the lips of another man. Akeno snorted humorously. I'll wait. She felt spiky hair tickle her chin as he buried his face in the crook of her neck. Will you wait if you knew? Hokage-sama. The enemies are less than a kilometer away from the main gates. A blond man, with 6 scars decorating his cheeks slammed his fist into the table. Frustration etched in his face. Sound the alarms. Get everyone ready. Konoha will not fall. The messenger, a low-ranked chunin hesitated. But, even Kumogakure has been destroyed, we should run Hokage-sama. We can't win against that army filled with immortal monsters like that. Cold blue eyes burnt with fury, but the blonde reigned in his anger. If you wish to leave then go. Just sound the alarms before you do. He ordered coldly. As the pattering of feet slowly receded down the corridor, the young man slumped into his chair, his back bowed and bent under the pressure of an unwanted leadership thrust upon his unprepared shoulders, elected by virtue of being one of the very few survivors at the Battle of Sound. No, not defeat, a massacre. An utter and complete rout at the hands of that masked madman. Wielding the power of all 9 bijus, only instead of continuing his self-proclaimed Moon Eye plan, the madman had decided to slaughter everyone who had defied him first. It had been a complete disaster that claimed the lives of nearly half of every senior shinobi in the 5-element alliance, including his adopted grandmother Tsunade, his mentor Kakashi, the buxom cheerful Mizukage, and his best friend, the Kazekage. He was leader of Konoha, only because no one else could be. Almost immediately, he had been elected as the Rokudaime Hokage, since both Tsunade, the Godaime and Kakashi, the only other viable option, had died. Fat lot of good being resurrected did for me, without the Kyuubi. I am nothing. And it was true. After the Kyuubi had been pulled from him, forcibly killing him, the blonde had thrown himself deep into the war effort again, without telling anybody about how he had survived and that Kyuubi was no longer sealed inside of him. Only to discover one very important thing. Without the Kyuubi's massive reserves, he was next to useless. Reduced to a handful of clones at any given period, a slight boost in strength and speed at night. A tiny repertoire of near-useless jutsus, toad summoning, sage mode and limited to only 1 or 2 Rasenshurikens between long periods of rest, Naruto Uzumaki was effectively crippled. His only saving grace was his abnormal stamina. Chakra pools and a minor healing factor that saved his ass during subsequent battles, and even then both attributes were severely downgraded compared to his youth. During that very first battle, B had been forced to sacrifice himself in order to save Naruto from a zombie Nagato and Itachi. His death was the straw that broke the camel's back, and the five-element alliance nearly disintegrated because of A's fury. Tiredly, he lifted one arm and pressed a small button on the intercom, summoning his chief advisor, Shikamaru. "It is time. You really want to do this?" A lazy drawl crackled back to him over the communicator. "We don't have a choice. I'm not asking you to do this with me, I'll do it myself." He growled back angrily. "Understood. I have the keys to Orochimaru's lab. Meet you down there in 5 minutes." The blonde slumped back, content to use that 5 minutes to rest, before he had to confront what may be the worst decision of his life. In their efforts to repel the invasion, the remaining members of the Konoha 9 had scoured the entire Hokage vaults for any hidden jutsus that might save them. They failed, though there had been some false hope. Like when they had found the records to the Yondaime's legendary Hiraishin. Only to realize that no one but Naruto had enough reserves to pull it off, and even then, he simply wasn't smart enough to learn it in time. That day, for the first time in his life, Naruto finally understood that hard work couldn't solve everything. The only reason Konoha had even lasted this long compared to the even mightier Kumogakure was because the blonde, filled with self-hatred at every command, had taken to sending in kamikaze squads of ninja, each of them sealing major zombie threats with the very sealing technique that had sealed the bane of his life into his stomach. But this method had obviously severely depleted Konoha's forces, and they had been forced to stop it after his ninjas flat-out refused to listen to his orders. Then Shikamaru had discovered something that might be able to save them, deep down in the sealed vaults of Orochimaru's old labs, something even Orochimaru had been terrified of, judging by the insane scribbling they found in his notes. Naruto sighed and got up, wondering if this was how the Sandaime felt. Shrugging the tattered white cloak onto his shoulders, the blonde slowly trudged towards the south quarter. What Shikamaru had found would either save them all, or doom everyone. Check. End game. Wah, what is that? Why won't it die? A masked man rambled incoherently as he shook his head in denial. They crossed the line with that monster. A serene chuckle from beside him stopped the masked man from continuing. "You crossed the line first, boy." Dull black eyes glittered in mirth and dry cracked skin rustled like flakes as the speaker set down a large fan and flicked off the eyeball that had just been blown across the field onto his armor. "Because of your pride. You attacked them, taunted them, and hounded them to the point of desperation, even when you could have just foregone the whole matter once you had the Kyuubi. That thing over there." The resurrected Madara pointed at the solid mass of black of flailing, near indestructible tentacles in the distance, mindlessly rampaging through friend or foe like so much wet paper. "That's just them doing to you the exact same thing you were doing to them, for world peace, if I might add." The Uchiha finished snidely. "Why are you so carefree? This was originally your plan." The masked man screamed madly. "Once you began killing people unnecessarily, it stopped being my plan, and became your insanity taking over." The dead Uchiha smirked. "Besides, I'm already dead. Don't worry, you will like it there." Checkmate. End game. A red portal expanded in mid-air directly in front of Naruto, slowly revolving and enlarging, until a man clad in gray and gold shining armor with a regal bearing passed through. Deep crimson hair that shone in the sun like a wreath of flames bounced in a crisp ponytail. "It's time, Naruto. I've given you the time you requested to settle matters here before you joined me. We need your help in the war." That was when he happened to look around and realized that the two of them were sitting in the center of a deep basin filled with rubble, craters, deep gouge marks and flowing rivers of blood, perhaps rivaling even the destruction his own power could cause. Wah, what happened here? He had been careful to only open the portal. Showed no one was around except him and his target, but he hadn't expected to find the blonde in an absolutely desolate warzone. Naruto slowly looked up at him, the last living legacy of the shinobi era. if only by virtue of being the one that had destroyed it. The deadness in his dull blue orbs caused the demon lord to take a step back in shock. I happened. Blinking in shock, Searsex coughed slightly and regained his composure. Is this a bad time? I don't mind if you need some more time. Just don't tell Graphia. Dull blue eyes blinked once and he replied in a monotone, no. It's a perfect time. Let's go. The tattered and blood-stained cloak flapped in the cold wind as the blonde slowly stood up and walked towards the portal without hesitation. One of the great four Satans couldn't help but look backwards, flinching at the sheer destruction that scarred the ground for as far as he could see. Together, he and the sole survivor the shinobi era left that dimension for good. End game. Bright blue eyes snapped open and a hooded man surged upwards, stumbling out of the bed towards the toilet. His bed companion, shocked awake the sudden movement, blearily wiped at her eyes. Carefully she shrugged on a thick robe and approached the toilet from where she could hear retching sounds. Naruto. Are you alright? Naruto shakily breathed. I'm alright. It was just a bad dream. Just a bad dream. Akeno frowned and elegantly sat down outside the toilet door, drawing her knees up to her chest for warmth. What are your plans for today? She asked casually, chuckling lightly. Naruto washed his face and slid down the door onto his butt. I have to go back to the palace for a while and make a report to Zex. Maybe even play with Milikas for a while. I haven't seen that brat in ages. A nostalgic smile brightened Akeno's face. You were always good with children. I remember how you used to play with me and Rias all the time. Rias would ride on Enku's back, and I'd take yours. Even back then you were as sadistic as you were now, Naruto grumbled quietly. The level of sweetness in Akeno's voice doubled and tripled, immediately alerting Naruto to the danger. Did you say something? The blonde immediately backpedaled, having no wish to get maimed so early in the morning. No, I just said you were such a cute kid back then. You mean I'm not cute now? Stop reading words that I didn't say into my sentences. Naruto countered dryly. HMPH. The two of them fell silent, until Akeno spoke again, feeling that they had danced around the issue long enough. Was it a memory? She queried lowly. Naruto chuckled from his own position behind the door, only the thin piece of wood stopping their backs from touching, one from before I joined Searsex. It's been a while since I've dreamed of that one. Normally all I get is a jumble of disconnected images or memories that aren't mine. He hoarsely replied. Did you see what you looked like? Naruto shook his head, though he knew his friend couldn't see it, just that I had blue eyes, and some sort of scars on my cheek. Akeno chuckled. Too bad I don't like scars. They're so ugly. HMNPH. Only a big-titted sow like you would think so. Scars are proof of a man's pride, you know. All those nutrients must have gone the wrong way. When the door disintegrated in his blast of lightning too. Reveal Akeno with a sickeningly sweet smile on her face. Naruto decided he probably shouldn't have said that where she could easily have access to his body. I'm sorry. I seem to have gone temporarily deaf. Would you mind repeating that again? I said, I like cows and that they are very nutritional. No deal. Akeno swung a fistful of lightning at his face. Now don't struggle. It'll just hurt more. She paused. What am I saying? Please struggle. AYIEEE. End game. Yo, Zex. Whatcha doing? Paperwork. The long red-haired man grumbled. Why does everyone have an urgent need to bring their every problem to my desk? I mean, it's a freaking baby. Just cut it in half. Paperwork. The hooded man patted Zek's back lightly in commiseration. I think that's the only good thing I've enjoyed since I came here. Oi, you saying you don't enjoy the food? Don't forget the beautiful ladies. A stupid grin appeared on both men's faces, though no one could probably see it on Naruto's face. Hehehe. He. Did I miss something? A cold voice cut through their banter like a hot knife through butter, causing Searsex to hysterically point at the hooded man. It's Naruto's fault. It's always his fault. He was the one to start it first. Wow. Nice support, jackass. Graphia, dressed in her customary maid uniform, just rolled her eyes at the two adult children. Why can't you two act like adults? Then she quirked her eyes at the beaten-up, smoking and ragged Naruto. A tiny smirk curled the corner of her lips. Akeno. The hooded man looked away and scratched his unseen cheek. Yeah. Honestly, you two might as well just get married. At least then any wounds you might get would be worth it. Ew. What are you talking about? I'm like a father to her. I've known her since she was 5. That's so wrong on so many levels. The married couple just smirked at his reaction, causing Naruto to grumble and throw a sheaf of paper at his boss. That's the report. You ungrateful backstabber. Sears X poked his tongue out at his pawn in a show of maturity before briefly sheafing through the papers with a keen eye, completely different from his goofy mannerisms. One eyebrow rose. You didn't assimilate the girl. It wouldn't have been right with the young lady watching. Naruto answered primly, besides, her newest pawn seems to have something of a bond with her. The gray-haired beauty smacked both of them up their heads, causing Naruto to reply with a deadpan, ouch. And the demon lord to whine childishly. She pointed an imperious finger at her husband. Stop encouraging him to do that. And you, leveling her finger at the unrepentant blonde, she continued, stop eating random stuff you pick off the floor. Enku told us you ate someone you didn't have to. This family is filled with backstabbers. Naruto mourned theatrically, besides, I was hungry, and it was only one. Graphia glared at him, causing the hooded man to shift uncomfortably. Get some proper food next time. Sensing the concern in her angry tone, Naruto smiled softly under his hood and held his hands up in defeat. Yes, mistress. She only rolled her eyes again before turning serious. Did Zex tell you yet? Confused, the blonde shook his head. Tell me what? The idiot only told me to get my ass here as soon as possible. Oi, I can hear you, you know. The Phoenixes wants to move up the wedding. Naruto gaped. What? It was supposed to be after she graduates university, wasn't it? Or if she couldn't find someone to love, whichever came first. Why the sudden rush? Sears X nodded slowly. We suspect that they have been infiltrated, and the sudden rush in events is because they know that Raynal was defeated. Unfortunately, we have no way of confirming this. So we can do nothing but bow to their will. For now. Or at least pretend to. Naruto pointed out dryly as he gave the 2 high-ranking demons a shrewd look. So. What's the plan? His superior immediately coughed lightly. Plan? What plan? As if I'm going to believe that a siskin like you is going to let his precious little sister get married to some uptight idiots. Naruto replied dryly. Says the one that wanted to destroy her kindergarten and the town it was in because she was bullied. Sears X muttered under his breath. You both have issues, now can we get back to the problem? Graphia immediately cut through the conversation again, prompting the 2 of them to share a long-suffering look. Well, it's not like I don't have an idea. Zex said with a small grin. Naruto immediately held up his hand. Stop smirking like that. I can already smell Graphia getting turned on and I do not want to be anywhere near you 2 when you get it on. He spent the rest of the day encased in an ice block while Milikas used him as a snowman. End game. Naruto suppressed an undignified sneeze as he sat beside Graphia, the 2 of them mediating between 2 apparently hostile groups. Prompting the stoic gray-haired beauty to discreetly stomp on his foot. Cursing, he sent his friend, who was hiding a smirk, an unseen glare. I will not accept this, and I will not crush my house either. I will take a husband. Rias declared firmly. The blonde, sophisticated-looking man who was lounging on the couch opposite of the fiery heir of Grimori House only smirked. Ah, that's good, Rias. You are finally coming around. Let's. I said, I will take a husband. I did not say it would be you. Rias interrupted coldly. The expression on the blonde man's face immediately twisted unpleasantly as he digested her words. Sharply glaring at her, he made an irritated noise with his tongue. You know, Rias, I'm also a devil who holds the name of Phoenix behind me. I can't let that name get scratched. I didn't even want to come to a small old building like this in the human world. Actually, I don't like the human world. The fire and wind in this world is filthy. For a devil like me who symbolizes fire and wind, I can't stand it. His killing intent flared, and with it, bright white flames surged out from him, causing the small room to get unbearable hot and the air to get thick with hostility. I will take you back to the underworld, even if I have to burn all of your servants. The atmosphere was intense, but there was one person who interfered calmly. It was Graphia. Ojo-sama, Razor-sama. Please calm down. If both of you were to continue, then I won't be quiet about it. She stated lowly. It was a fact, not a promise. Rias and Razor both made a serious face after hearing the threat hidden in Graphia's intense voice. Unaffected by the drama, the hooded man swathed in a tattered white cloak beside her simply crossed his feet again and again, as if completely bored. Completely brushing off Razor's killing intent like a speck of dust. In response, Razor calmed the flames around his body and made a sigh while shaking his head. I understand. To be told that by the ultimate queen. Even I would be scared. I definitely wouldn't want to fight the people from Surzek-sama's group, which is said to be made up of monsters. Though the way he spoke was casual and seemed to intentionally ignore the existence of the hooded man beside Grafia-san completely, Issei felt there was a hidden emphasis on the word monster that was directed at the man for some reason. Though neither he nor Grafia-san visibly reacted to it. Speaking of which, that man said he was Bushu's brother's pawn, wasn't it? Did they really have that much strength? To be honest, Issei felt that it was really hard to take either of them seriously, especially since the hooded man started picking his nose in boredom, and it was hard to take the slender and beautiful Grafia seriously at all. Rias took a few obviously calming breaths and stopped flaring her own magic, settling for glaring at her intended fiancé. Everyone such as the master, Surzek-sama and the PLE from the House of Phoenix knew it would become like this. To tell you the truth, this was to be the last discussion meeting. Everyone knew that it wouldn't be solved, so they decided to make a last resort. Last resort? What do you mean, Grafia? Ojo-sama, if you wish to push your opinion forward, then how about you decide it by doing the rating game with Razor-sama? Exclamation mark question mark quote. Rias gaped at her. Ignoring the penetrating stare from the heir of the Grimoire house, the gray-haired woman continued calmly, the monotone she usually reserved when not with friends, just like Ojo-sama already knows. A rating game can only be played by mature-aged devils. But if it's an unofficial match, then even pure-blood devils who haven't reached mature age can participate. But in this case, it involves the family and household problem, right? Rias interrupted with an angry huff. In other words, Otu-sama and the others chose to make us do the game as a last resort when I was to decline, right? What nerve did they have to keep on controlling my life? Then Ojo-sama, you are saying you would also decline to participate in the game? No. This is a chance. Alright then. Let's decide this by the game, Razor. Razor smirked after Bushu challenged him. You're accepting it. I don't mind. But I'm already a mature devil and I have already participated in the official game. Right now I have won most of the games. Even so, you still want to play, Rias? Razor replied back with a challenging tone. Bushu made a smirk. I will make you disappear, Razor. Fine. If you win, do whatever you like. But if I win, you will marry me immediately. Both of them glared at each other. Understood. Grafia, have confirmed both sides' opinion. I will be in charge as the referee of the game between both sides. Will that be acceptable? Yes. Yeah. Bushu and Razor both agreed to Grafia-san's approval. Understood. The main houses involved shall be informed. Grafia-san bowed her head politely. Hey, Rias, would the ones here be your servants? Razor suddenly spoke, causing both Grafia and Naruto to tense unnoticed by everyone else. Yes. The red-haired girl replied defiantly and proudly. The proud tone in her statement caused all 5 of her chess pieces to noticeably straighten their backs in defiance. Razor started laughing at her answer. Then this match will be a piece of cake. Only your queen, the lightning priestess, can even hope to give any of my servants a satisfactory fight. Having said his piece, he clicked his fingers. The magic circle on the floor glowed. Shadows began appearing from the magic circle. And these are my cute servants. There were 15 people that seemed to be Razor's servants around him. There was even a person that looked like a knight, who was wearing armor. High-class devils receive 15 inches evil pieces, from the Mao. Using that to choose who you wish to make your servants forms the master and servant relationship. If the person you wish to make your servant has high potential capacities, then the chess consumption doubles. Rias pursed her lips as she observed each one of the 15 pieces calculatingly. And weighed them against her own pieces. Just then the tense atmosphere was broken by the sound of someone sobbing, while Razor slowly backed away with squicked out look on his face. Hey Rias. This servant-kun over here is crying a lot while looking at me. Naruto face palmed. Without missing a beat, Rias replied, this boy's dream is to have a harem. I think he was moved after looking at your servants. Gross. Razor-sama. This person is freaking me out. Razor's girls made an unpleasant face after looking at the perverted look of longing on the brown-haired boy's face. Sensing an opening of some sort, the blonde noble smiled. Ma. Don't say that, my cute girls. Looking up to high-class devils is what a lowly being does. Let's show them how close we are. After he said that, Razor started to tongue-kiss one of the girls, moving his palm to caress her visible skin and groping her breasts greedily. Ha. Ah. How. Asia's face had gotten so red that it seemed like it would blow any second. Ignoring the blonde girl dressed in a nun's habit, Razor separated from the busty mage, leaving lewd threads of saliva connecting their lips. He then started to tongue-kiss the other girl. While he was kissing the second girl, Issei noticed that the blonde noble's eyes were focused on him. Just then he smirked condescendingly, as if saying, you will never be able to do this. Damn it. Boosted gear. Issei's head was full of rage and jealousy as a red gauntlet with a green jewel implanted in its back materialized on his arm with a loud hum of power, a womanizer Lee. Keiyu isn't good enough to be with Bushu. Huh. Aren't you looking up to me, the so-called womanizer? Gu. Shish, shut up. That's different with the thing about Bushu. At this rate, you will continue to flirt with other girls even after you marry Bushu. Heroes love women. That's a saying in the human world, right? A good phrase indeed. But this is just a close relationship with my servants. Even you want to get adored by Rias. Don't you? A bitter look crossed the young boy's face. Hero my ass. You are just a bird guy. Firebird Phoenix. Ha ha ha. That's the same as Yakitori. Razor's face twisted angrily. Yakitori. You low-class devil. Don't get ahead of yourself. That's not the way you talk to a high-class devil. Rias. You have to educate your servants. Bushu just ignored his shout and simply replied with a flat. Like I care. Hey fried chicken guy. I will just beat the crap out of you with my boosted gear. My pride. My boosted gear. It doubles my power every 10 seconds. And after a while I can attain a power to kill even a god. We don't need to have a match. I will just take you all down, right here, right now. Boost. Power surged through Issei's body and everyone in the room could feel a noticeable boost in his power as the brown-haired boy recklessly charged at the blonde man. Mira. Do it. Yes, Razor-sama. Without any hesitation whatsoever, the GIRL who was nearly a head shorter than Issei disappeared with a speed impossible for Issei to perceive at his current level of abilities. Kasahin. Reappearing above Issei, the girl smirked and UGHT her foot down in a powerful axe kick aimed at Issei's spine. Gaha. His body smashed into the floor with incredible force before being bounced back into the air again, her fist already poised to smash and face in. Possibly beheading him from pure brute force, only to freeze as the hooded man appeared behind her like a ghost, one finger touching the back of her neck. Following the laws of gravity, Issei slowly fell back to the ground with a softer crash than the one he had just seconds ago. Eyes-san. Asia shouted and scrambled to his side. Carefully watching the hooded man who hadn't made a single move ever since the meeting had started, very aware that he had almost crossed an invisible line, enough to make the hooded man move, and so he very carefully intoned a curt order, enough Mira. The hooded man seemed to nod and removed his finger before fading back to his original spot, casually lounging on his seat. The small girl with a stick grunted in annoyance and shoot the interf. A glare before turning it on her defeated opponent. You are weak. Ku. The one who you just fought is my pawn, Mira. She's the weakest out of my servants, but she has more battle experience. Ian has more talent as a devil than you. Boosted gear. Huh. Razor stepped on the crimson gauntlet and he started laughing with his nose. This is certainly one of the invincible and dangerous sacred gears. By how you use it you can not only beat me, but also Mao and God. There were quite a number of possessors who had that before. But there hasn't been any case where it defeated a god or Mao. Do you know what this means? Razor then laughed really loudly. It means that this sacred gear is imperfect and also the possessors were bunch of weaklings that couldn't use it. You are the same as well. How do you say this in the human world again? Yes, pearls before swine. Fuhahahaha. Yes, pearls before swine. It's about you. Rias's, pawn, kun. Razor started patting Issei's brown hair disdainfully. But the match would be interesting if you were to get used to it. That might be it. Putting his hand on his chin, the blonde struck a thoughtful pose. Rias, how about we have a match in 10 days? We could do it now. But that wouldn't be fun for us at all. If we're going to have a rating game, my girls should at least have some decent opponents. Are you giving me a handicap? Are you against it? Is it humiliating? Rating game isn't something simple that you can win with only your feelings. If you can't use your servant's power to the fullest, then you will lose immediately. So it's not weird for you to train with your servants for your first rating game. No matter how much potential you have, no matter how much power you have, I have seen devils who lost without using their power to the fullest countless of times. Bushu kept quiet and listened carefully to what Razor had to say. Razor put his palm to the ground and it started to glow. 10 days. If it's you, then you should be able to improve your servants. He then looked at me. Don't be a disgrace to Rias, Rias's pawn, Kun. Your hit is Rias's hit. I realized that those words were said when thinking about Bushu. Rias, the next time we meet will be at the match. After he said that, Razor disappeared in the magic circle along with his servants. Silence filled the void that the Phoenix noble had just left. A charred blot on the wooden floor where he and his entourage had been standing. Well, that was interesting. Everyone glared at the hooded man. What? ******** 10 days later. What do you think of their chances? Sirzex quietly intoned so that the other nobles in the room could not hear their conversation. Grafia and Naruto stood behind Sirzex's throne in a dignified flan. King position as they watched the floating screen in front of the hall they were seated in. They worked hard and trained a lot during the 10 days they were given. His wife commented noncommittally as she watched, taking careful note of the abilities of her sister-in-law's newest pawn as he fought off 2 chainsaw-wielding girls. Sirzex sighed. Naruto. What she really means is that they are guaranteed to lose. His reply caused the gray-haired woman to shoot him a glare, which he returned with a completely unapologetic grin. Did you narrow it down? I have. The Phoenix themselves have no direct connection with the brigade. But their massive egos are being manipulated by someone within the Astaroth house. Unfortunately, I cannot determine which individual was responsible for it. Naruto's voice went flat. The messages I intercepted seem to indicate that Ruvel will make an appearance later though. That might complicate matters a bit. Why is he coming? Zex winced as Rias Rook. A tiny white-haired girl was taken out by a violent blast of flames by Razor's bomb queen. Because he doesn't like me. Naruto answered flatly. You just described nearly 80% of the demon world, Naruto. Grafia pointed out, though Naruto was aware that she was just teasing him. Coming from the ultimate Queen Sama herself, that really doesn't mean much. Besides, they fear me. Not dislike me. There's a difference. Naruto answered with an easy grin. That aside, shouldn't we end the match? He jerked his chin at the screen. Issei-san is going to have an aneurysm soon. End game. Red. I was watching a red dream. Something made a sudden complaint to me within myself. The power I am using now isn't its actual form. Sacred gear. Or something which is inside me. He oved its lips while shaking its scorching fire. If you are like that, you will never get strong. I heard something like that in my mind. I didn't make it up. It came from within my heart. No, from my left arm. You are an abnormal being who possesses a dragon within you. Don't look uncool. The white guy will laugh at you. Are you the dragon that appeared in that dream? Was that new power up because of you? Yeah, you wanted it. You desired it. The white guy desired it as well. That's why you went into a new step. Desire. What are you saying? I mean, who the heck is the white guy? He will appear before you sooner or later. Yeah, he and I are destined to fight. Oh yeah, my power. I will teach you how to use its real power. What are you saying? Who are you? Welsh dragon, Didrag. Hyodo Issei. I'm the one inside of your left arm. Welsh dragon, Didrag. Losing may be alright. If you don't die, losing can become your strength. But it only means something if you win the next fight. Lose then win. Then continue to win. If you do that, you will meet him. So what's going to happen between me and him? You will know soon enough. Get stronger for that day. I will give you power anytime you want. But keep it in your mind that it will come with the sacrifice of something great. I will give you something that is worth a sacrifice. You can show it to those who laughed at you. The existence of a dragon. End game. Razor took a few steps backwards while coughing blood. From something like this. He said that and fell on the ground. He didn't stand up again. Issei tiredly stumbled backwards, a triumphantly grin on his face. Giving the prone Ryuser one last glance, he made his way towards Rias, who stood there with a proud and expectant look on her face. I did it, Bushu. You did. Seemingly unable to hold herself back anymore, Rias launched herself into his arms, causing everyone gathered in the hall to start clapping. There was even a few whistles, causing the two of them to blush. Bushu, let's go home. Suddenly the hall silenced as a smiling Searsex got up from his throne and walked forward, slowly clapping. You have done well, Issei-san. I thank you for showing all of us what a dragon can truly do. Be proud, this victory is something you have truly earned. You are free to go home. To everyone else, there will be a banquet to celebrate my sister's free. Bang! As a regal man, dressed in intricate robes stalked in, followed by 15 girls, each of them of varying race and age, but all of them beautiful. An angry frown marred his noble features. Naruto took note of the flames trailing behind him, making magnificent swirls in the air as he walked. Dramatic as always, he muttered quietly to the ultimate queen beside him. Freedom, Searsex. A large four-legged creature, wreathed in blue sparks and electricity and growling ferally, materialized out of nowhere beside a calm Searsex. Do not address a member of the four great Satans with such familiarity, Ruvel. Do not forget your station. Enough, Anku. Zex calmed his pawn down with a casual wave before politely addressing the man who had his hair up in a delicate ponytail. Is there a problem, Ruvel? The white flames around the man swirled agitatedly. Problem. Do not insult me, Searsex-sama. We were kind enough to all. Owe your sister a loophole in the form of a rating game. She lost it fair and square. That one-on-one match is nothing but a disgusting tactic to muddy our honor. You have no right to call off the wedding based on something like that. Especially since there is no such clause in the contract. The pathetic fool lost because he was weak, but that does not cancel the wedding. But your brother himself agreed to that before they started fighting. Zex pointed out easily, by his own words, he would be obligated to give up my sister's hand in marriage anyway. Ruvel snorted, how low will you sink? Spinning around to the gathered members of the hall he spread his hands mockingly. Nobles of Makai, open your eyes and see what Searsex is truly doing. Can someone who practices favoritism and breaks his own words continue to be your leader? He pointed theatrically at a serene Searsex. This is nothing but a poorly disguised attempt to get back at the House of Phoenix after losing to me in a rating game. The blond man who bore a great resemblance to the unconscious Razor hid a smirk from the gathered nobles as a whispered commotion broke out behind his back. He could feel dissentio start to spread amongst the high-ranked nobilities as they affixed Searsex with an accusing stare. Behind Zex, Naruto leaned over to Graphia slightly and whispered quietly, why did we lose that one again? Graphia bowed her head in embarrassment. A new video game had just come out in the human world at the time, so he figured he might as well throw the match, allowing the Phoenix house to go in more fame and some measure of loyalty to us and at the same time, so that he can get back to his game. Naruto nodded as if that one sentence had cleared all his questions. Sadly enough, it did. I declare you unfit to lead us as one of the four great Satans. Not only do you play favorites, you have not fought in a rating game for nearly a century. You are nothing but an old has-been. T is living off his past glory and reputation. Behind him, the sounds of feet being stomped on the ground could be heard, along with cheers and cries for a fight, Ruvel's peach having riled up all lust for blood amongst gathered nobles. So that's his goal, Not too bad. Put a puppet on the throne and half their goal is already achieved. Searsex nodded slightly at Naruto's input before responding. Then who will take my place? You. Of course. I, the undefeated, immortal brilliant flame god, Ruvel Phoenix. You understand what that means, don't you, Ruvel? Searsex's eyes began to glow with power. Make your decision carefully. This is not a simple rating game. If you lose this one, the Phoenix house will be irreparably damaged. For a moment, the blonde seemed to wilt before Reed puffing out his chest like a peacock and giving his approval with a defiant shout. The entire occult club who had recovered stood to one of the hall, seemingly forgotten amidst the revolt. Bu Bushu, what is happening? Issei questioned hesitantly. It seems that someone is challenging my brother for the right to be one of the 4 great Satans. Rias answered offhandedly, I'm more concerned about why he doesn't seem shocked at all. Red eyes narrowed at the trio standing at the front of the hall. I smell a setup. Are you sure he can win? That guy said Searzek-sama lost to him before. Who is that guy anyway? A tiny sliver of worry made its way into Rias' expression. Lord of the Phoenix House and eldest brother of Razor Phoenix, Ruval Phoenix. He has never lost a rating game. Before, but I've never actually seen him fight, to be honest. But this one is different. Usually there's nothing at stake in normal rating games other than one's reputation, but this is a royal rating game. The loser has to forfeit 80% of all their funds, members and lands to the winner as a trophy, though they can keep their title. It was made as a way to stop the nobles from continuously revolting because they don't suffer any penalties. She gave Issei an apologetic look as her brother and his opponent made their way onto the same arena that Rias Occult Club just had their fight with Razor's Pieces. Despite most of us acting civilized and cultured, the need to fight and draw blood is engraved into our very souls and spirits as demons. Some just give into it the bloodlust more than others. As everyone unrelated to the fight made their way to the hall where a big screen was quickly set up for them to spectate, Rias continued to unrelenting stare at her brother. Something he obviously noticed, if the way he kept fidgeting and purposely avoiding eye contact with her was any indication. Suddenly she gasped as the members for the rating game was confirmed, 2 lists with names and all the agreed rules for the game was written on it in massive font so that everyone could see it slowly faded into existence on the screen. Play AC/DC, Highway to Hell. On one side, it was obvious that the list that contained 16 names belonged to the House of Phoenix. It was the other that shocked Rias, it contained only 2 names. Searzek's Grimoire, King. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Pawn. Shocked whisperings started to fill the hall, before they began to bloat into full-out shouts of anger and incredulosity. Just 2. What is he thinking? Does he want to throw this match? He probably gave up already. He is competing with that Phoenix after all. Words like that continuously battered the occult club, though only Akeno and Rias seemed completely indifferent. In fact, they were smiling as if they finally understood something. Issei. Hi, Bushu. Remember how you said you wanted to be the best pawn for me? Scrunching his brows in confusion, Issei nodded slowly. Yay. Then watch carefully. The hooded pawn of absolute despair is going to fight. She's right, boy. Watch and you might even find out why even touching that man is a bad idea. Issei blinked. What? But the dragon refused to talk anymore. Akeno stopped a passing noble. Excuse me, do you know what are the odds for this match? 1001. I mean, Ruval is a famous competitor that has never lost so far. And Lucifer-sama hasn't fought a single match in a century, he is bound to be weak. I mean, even his sister lost to his younger brother, and Razor can't compare to Ruval. Akeno smiled sweetly, thank you. Turning to Rias, a small smirk curled her lips. How much? 3,000 Maka. Issei gaped. 500 for me. Kiba declared happily as he passed his vice president some coins. 300. Kaneko too. End game. Should I join the fight, Searzek-sama? Enku quietly spoke from his place beside the tall red-haired man who was standing beside a stoic Graphia. It's all right, Enku. There's something the two of them need to settle anyway. Besides, I think losing this game might pop the Phoenix ego a little. It's been getting a little stuffy with them being so insufferably high and mighty all the time anyway. It's time. Lucifer-sama. Graphia flatly cut him off, causing the tall armor-clad man to wince, knowing that his wife was sulking for not being allowed to fight. As the two men walked down a dark corridor, Zex muttered, "You owe me big time for this, Naruto. 3 buckets of fried harpy wings and that new game you've been whining about." 10-5. Deal. The two men shook hands with stupid grins. Naruto stretched and leapt off into the open field while Zex made himself comfortable on a wooden chair and popped a bag of popcorn that he pulled out of nowhere. Ruvel had obviously thought it was going to end soon, and decided not to waste his time with any petty planning since he was so obviously going to steamroll them when he decided on an open field. Match begin. End game. Is that possible? Issei blinked wildly as a deep rumbling grew inside his chest, a need to match his strength with the hooded man, a challenging growl emanating from his right hand. His tattered white cloak flapped in the wind, the red flame patterns at the bottom danced, as he stepped forward, step by step in a straight line, aiming directly at awaiting Ruvel. Shrugging off all but the strongest attacks, even Ruvel's queen, a beautiful raven-haired mage that looked vaguely like the Bomb Queen's older sister with the title of the Crown of Flames only manage. To make him stumble briefly with her biggest blast, something Issei was confident would have taken out their entire club even it wasn't a direct hit. All around him, beautiful girls tried and failed to attack him. Every time they even managed to get within range, they found themselves being smashed into the ground, head first, with one finger. Offhandedly, he noted that Akeno was looking extremely smug for some reason. That and the man who was supposed to be Lucifer was eating popcorn. End game. The hooded man did not bother to evade as a massive black blade screeched against his skin with a shower of sparks. Its serrated edge trying and failing to cut through his bare skin. A finger touching her forehead was the last thing Ruvel's rook remembered as her world flipped around an very thing went black when she found her skull pounded into the ground with extreme force. Buried in the ground head first, like some sort of weird plant, legs poking up into the sky. Behind her, 14 of her comrades had already fallen victim to that exact same gesture. The blue flames under his hood that represented his eyes never failed to look away from Ruvel's own eyes, step by step. Despair, Ruvel. I am coming for you. Cuckoo. Cuckoo ahahaha. You monster. Are you scared, Ruvel? The blonde man flicked his hair back elegantly and sneered at him. I beat you once, monster, I can do it again. Something like you doesn't even deserve to be called a demon. End game. Play Shoko Nakagawa, happily ever after. I can't help but notice something. Why does everyone we've met so far call Naruto-san a monster? I mean, we're all demons, so what's the big deal? Issei tentatively asked his club mates, causing the Bushu and her assistant to share a look. Do you remember that stray devil we were forced to kill? Bushu asked blandly. Yeah, what about her? Breaking away from one's master is considered one of the worst taboos in our culture. There are only two things worse than that. One of them is indiscriminately attacking and eating humans. This is because even though eating humans will give demons a permanent power boost comparable to even the strongest chess pieces, doing so will feed its bloodlust and gradually erode its rationality until the stray devil becomes nothing more than a raging beast. She glanced at Akeno for a moment as if asking for permission. Her childhood friend stiffly nodded. The last and worst taboo in our culture is eating our fellow demons. Aiza's eyes widened. You mean, like cannibalism? That's a good approximation, yes. Bushu nodded. Dian continued her impromptu history lesson. After the First Great War, our numbers were so low that we could not afford to fight amongst ourselves, so it was more for survival rather than anything. Real moral principle at first, but as time passed, killing a fellow demon became frowned upon and the very concept of eating another demon became utterly repugnant. That is where Naruto comes in. Though, I don't know the details because I wasn't born yet. When Naruto Ni-san first joined the House of Grimoire, he apparently had problems adjusting and controlling his power, and that resulted in him more than ruthlessly digesting a few idiots that would not stop attacking him. Bushu's lips stretched into a thin line. Because of that, and his particular skill set, Naruto Ni-san was shunned, feared and hated by almost our entire culture. Many people even thought that we should expel him from our house because of this. She gave her pawn a soft look, but I told you before, didn't I, even amongst the demons. The house's Grimoire is famed for caring for our servants. My brother refused to expel Naruto Ni-san and protected him even though he was reviled and lost a lot of support for that decision. As a result, Naruto Ni-san is incredibly devoted to our house. Rias smirked wryly, to the extent that father and mother even consider him their own flesh and blood. Naruto Ni-san and Isama even act more like brothers rather than a king and his pawn. Akeno shrugged. It has been a long time since the idiot has actually eaten a demon, but some things just don't go away. Oh. End game. Ruvel growled as he blocked a black, massive, swinging guillotine that sprouted out of the hooded man's limbs with his own blade made of solid flames. Superheated flames and inky black K-metal sparked for dominance as the two of them fought at a speed too fast for the naked eye, clashing edge against edge again and again for the upper hand when the hooded man seemed to slip. Literally grasping his victory, Ruvel grinned in triumph as his free hand shot out and grabbed the hooded man's face. Die monster. His palms sparked for a moment, before suddenly spewing out an ocean of WH. ITE raging flames that engulfed the hooded man's entire body, turning up the heat until there he was confident not even ashes would be left over. Was that supposed to do something? Ruvel stumbled backwards at the question, scrambling away wide-eyed from the flaming figure as it began to laugh. The burning man snapped his fingers, and Ruvel screamed in horror when his hand, the hand that had made contact with the hooded man's face, exploded in a shower of gore. Gyaah. Panting, flames engulfed his body, regenerating his lost arm. That won't do anything to me, you monster, don't you know, I'm a phoenix. So, he snapped his fingers again, causing the limb to explode again with a merciless grin. Let's see which lasts longer, shall we? Your regeneration or my virus? I'll burn your virus away with my flames. Ruvel screamed furiously as his entire body morphed, changing into the very essence of fire shaped like a magnificent bird of air, and surged forward at the charred black figure that was taunting him with a burnt smile. The figure, which barely looked humanoid anymore, only laughed, a disturbing racking sound, and suddenly exploded into a mass of solid blackness that slowly expanded, wrapping itself around the struggling creature of flame. You're seriously trying to kill me, aren't you? The man lounging on the throne grinned impudently. Now what gave you that idea? All I'm doing is looking out for my little brother. Adopted little brother. The hooded man pointed out before flipping him off. Fuck you. Seriously, was the dry reply as the speaker jerked his hum at a regal-looking girl who had her sunshine yellow hair tied up in two spiraling pigtails, her nose stuck up in the hair with quiet dignity. If you make me bring her back with me, Akeno isn't going to stop at just breaking my limbs. Are you saying that you find me, Revel of the House of Phoenix, dissatisfactory compared to Rias Grimori's queen? The girl in question shot at her new master, bristling. The hooded man shook his head. No. I'm saying my friend will castrate me. Probably worse. She huffed. Not my problem. My Ni-sama lost to you and our family had to pay the consequences. A memory of a black reptile-shaped abomination of massive proportions, large enough to swallow the entire goddamned Phoenix mansion whole, spitting out a saliva-covered, wounded and utterly defeated Ted Ruvel Phoenix flitted through her mind, and she held back a slight shiver at the sheer power the unassuming man that stood beside her had displayed. I was ordered to join your peerage, so that is what I shall do, and do it well I shall. Quote, Gods above and below grant me patience. Naruto cursed under his breath before trying to reason with the man with long red hair. Look, I know that I've been putting my peerage off for the past 600 years. You are currently the only ultimate class demon that has categorically refused to form a peerage so far, the red-haired cut in idly. Naruto inclined his head to acknowledge the point. Be that as it may, you also know what I do isn't safe and I can't do it with Blondie here tagging along. The girl behind him began fuming at being called Somethi. Ing as crude as Blondie when several strings of solid shadow shot out of her new master's back and shut her up. Can't she just stay here as your assistant or something? He almost began whining. What about a compromise? Grafia cut in with a suggestion to the two stubborn men. Both of them shared a look before shrugging. Shoot. Grafia at the man in the white cape decorated with red flames at the bottom. You don't want her following you while you do your job. Her finger moved to her husband, and you want Naruto-sama to start a peerage while Revel gets to experience the human world as we. LL is scout for the next few members of his peerage. The gray-haired maid primly smoothed down her apron. What I propose is this, both Naruto-sama and Revel can go to the human world, but while he is out on missions, Revel can stay with Rias as a free bishop. That is acceptable, isn't it? The blonde girl was silent, but she approved, somewhat. At least now she would be able to justify spending me with that brown-haired boy that had defeated Riser, her previous master as well as brother. After a moment of stunned silence where the two men wondered why they didn't of that first, Naruto's rug. Tenor held a great amount of amusement in it. Now I see why you married her. We'd probably all be screwed if you hadn't. I know. Grafia held back a slight blush as her husband beamed at her with pride. End game. When Issei Hayato entered the clubroom for after-school activities the day after the wedding fiasco in the Netherworld, he wasn't entirely sure what to expect, especially Sync. Irias Grimori had all but declared herself his wife and moved into his home, with her niece Sama, the Lucifer of the Netherworld's permission no less. His parents had been rendered practically catatonic. See that he now had two young beautiful girls staying in the same house as him. That they had done so of their own free will was the icing on the cake. Either way, when the hooded man who was lazily nging on the clubroom's sofa greeted with a casual, "Yo." Issei had almost bolted out of the lavish clubroom until he remembered the fact the man who was lazily flicking a ball of fire on the couch in front of them had a rather disturbing tendency to eat people that annoyed him. Behind him, standing in a deferential position was a somewhat familiar young blonde girl. "Issei-san, we finally get to meet again." The young girl bowed and stared at him with sparkling eyes. The dark-haired boy couldn't help but gape. Sorry, but who are you?" "Revel Phoenix, isn't it? Sister of Riser Phoenix." A disturbingly calm and confident voice that could only belong to the Occult Research Club's president spoke from behind Issei. "By the way, you're blocking the way, eyes." "Ah Gomen, Bushu." Issei PPED aside as Bushu's words finally jolted his memory. Giving the blonde girl a friendly wave, he stood beside his master. When the flame-haired girl had seated herself at the majestic desk reserved for the president of the club, she pinned the lounging man and the blonde girl with a scrutinizing stare. "I've heard the general outline from Nissan, but what else can you tell me?" The dark-haired boy found himself switching his attention from person to person, feeling rather dumb and locked out of the loop. The man in the white cape sat upright and yawned lazily. "No biggie, I'm still here 'cause I still have something to do in the human world. When I'm around, she'll be with me, but when I'm off on a mission, she will be under your command for the duration that I'm gone. Whether or not you want to use her is up to you. Treat her like you treat anybody else." "Why wait, what's going on here?" a rather confused Issei interjected. Rias leaned back into her chair tiredly. "I told you yesterday, right? The Phoenix House challenged the Grimori House to a royal rating game. The only difference between those and normal rating games is the fact that there was a massive amount of influence and money at stake. Because the House of Phoenix lost, they ended up having to surrender a majority of their land and gold as well as their servants." She switched her gaze from the fidgeting black hair Ed boy to the despondent blonde girl and her lazy master, amongst which is Revel Phoenix Sand, since she was a piece at the time despite being a member of the Phoenix House itself. Seeing her older brother nod along, Rias decided to probe further to confirm the suspicions that she had mentally formed while watching the match between the hooded man and Ruvel. "I also suspect that my brother is trying to set Revel-san up as Naruto Nisama's first wife, not only to expand our influence and soften the blow of such a titanic loss for the House of Phoenix, as well as act as a placeholder for the union between the House of Phoenix and the Grimori House instead of me and Riser." She gave the hooded man a steely gaze, three birds with one stone so to speak. "Wait, surrendered? You mean like slavery? That's not fair to Revel-san," Issei said hotly. "That's enough, Issei-san." Revel interrupted him softly. "This is my task, and it is something I will do with my head held high." Bu. Clang. The sound of a metal plater clattering onto the marble floor drew everyone's attention to a wide-eyed Akeno standing in the doorway. The look on her face made it apparent that she had heard everything. The black-haired girl bit her lip before doing an about-face and briskly walking away with a stiff back. The man who had gone back to lounging on the sofa only sighed softly, explaining this isn't going to be fun. "No it isn't," Rias agreed quietly. "Shouldn't you go find her?" The man leapt up onto his feet, red flame cloak fluttering softly. "This is going to sting," he muttered lowly before Ting Revel's head not in an unkind manner. "Stay with Rias until I come back, alright? Just treat them like you would your friends." As the hooded man left the room, Rias spoke quietly. "Issei, would you mind leaving us for a moment?" Her pawn only gave her a hesitant look before reluctantly leaving the clubroom for a quick breath of fresh air after the rather disturbing revelation. "Please have a seat, Revel." The young blonde girl quietly took the seat directly facing Rias, with a quiet but firm dignity. "I know you don't like what has happened, I mean, it was only yesterday when I was in a similar position to yours. Rias poured a cup of steaming tea for the silent blonde, but I just want you to know that Naruto Ni-san probably doesn't like this as much as you do. If anything, because he was more or less completely shunned by the majority of the netherworld and his disposition towards matters of the heart, he probably hates it even more than you do, even though most demons don't see any problems whatsoever with having more than one partner. Some even see it as a sign of prestige, especially since servants are categorically treated like nothing but simple property in the netherworld. When the blonde failed to reply, Rias continued firmly, I know that you don't have feelings for Naruto Ni-san, but I would just like to ask that you don't take it out on him. He is a simple man that has never had much to look forward to in life. I would at least like him to have some support from his peerage. Ask, not command, Revel murmured. Ask. Rias confirmed with a nod, we of the House of Grimoire take care of our servants. You can rest assured that Naruto Ni-san will never try to force you do anything you do not want to do. Revel nodded mutely but held back on judging anything until she had spent more time in his company. End game. Supercell, my dearest. The moment the hooded man entered the little room in the attic that he had taken to calling his, he had to dodge a bolt of lightning to the head by ducking before 3 more shot out to corner him until the final one was less of a bolt and more of a torrent. Left without a choice, Naruto had taken the hit head on. The blast of lightning blew the hooded man straight into a wall, hard enough to leave an imprint of his body in the cement. Coughing slightly at the disturbing buzz in his limbs, the shinobi pulled himself out of the wall and landed on crouched feet before vaulting out of the way of another blast, one that was probably powerful enough to put down anything short of an ultimate-class demon. When he landed, he found himself taking even more blasts, but he withstood the rocking blasts with crossed arms. However, they were still powerful enough to throw him back a few feet, the wooden board King under his feet as he fought to maintain upright. You're getting good with that, he noted blandly as he slowly began to move forward against the repeated blasts of magic, though you should try to mix more elements. Simply using lightning makes you more predictable. He blinked when a floating orb of sparks made itself known directly in front of him, an orb that exploded violently and threw his entire nervous systems into a frazzle. Well, that's new. Cursing, he experimentally tested a few fingers and quickly righted the problems before crawling to his feet and moving towards a growling Akeno again, disregarding the fact that he was being used as a guinea pig for her new spells. He took measured step after step, ignoring the blasts that hammered his chest with little more than a tiny grunt until Akeno had no space to move her hands before throwing his rather numb arms around her shoulder. Akeno stiffened. Sorry, he murmured. There's nothing to apologize for, you just broke your promise to a young girl. That's all, Akeno spitefully replied, savoring the wince that rocked his body. In my defense, I really didn't want her in my peerage, at least not until I kept my promise to you. He muttered tiredly, causing Akeno to instantly feel guilty that she had attacked his pride. I fought against it, but that idiot insisted. You know how he gets when he thinks he has a sudden brilliant idea. Akeno couldn't help it, she chuckled at the memory. Yeah, about as stubborn as you. You both used to get into the stupidest arguments about trivial things. Relaxing her back, the raven-haired lady of Kuo Academy slumped into his embrace with a sad smile as she remembered the promise a rather precocious black-haired girl had forced the hooded man to make. Flashback. A small black-haired girl pulled on a lock of golden hair, causing the man to wince a little. Nay, Naruto Ni-san, where were you? Rias-chan was sad when you weren't there for her birthday. The man, whose face she could no longer remember, was lying on her lap, gave the small girl who was fiddling with his sunshine yellow locks a crooked smile. I was in the human world. Lucifer-sama has many missions for me. I'm his most important piece, you know. The blonde boasted in an exaggerated manner for the girl's benefit. The small girl giggled at his antics before pouting at him. No fair, you're always so busy. I want to go with you. You get to do all the neat stuff like fighting with gods and being powerful. The blonde smiled softly and knelt down beside the pouting girl before ruffling her hair. Tell you what. When you can prove to me that you're strong enough to join me, I'll accept you into my peerage. Then we can go on adventures together. Until then, I won't accept anyone. You'll be the first person I ask, all right? Quote. Her eyes glimmered in excitement. Pinky swear. He held out his pinky to her with an amused smile. Pinky swear. Their pinkies curled together and they shook on it. A rather star-struck Akeno Himehime instantly shot up and stood up on her tippy toes to peck his rough cheek before racing off to tell her best friend about the promise that the ultimate pawn had just made to her. To the tall man, all he had done was make a promise to a promising young devil with much potential. A girl to whom he owed a debt of honor and one of the few people that did not flinch away from mere physical contact with him. To the girl, the man who was one of the most powerful men, one of the most feared fighters in the netherworld had just proposed to her, a 7-year-old orphan. Flashback. Looks like I didn't get strong in time, huh? Akeno softly said before yelping cutely when the hooded man bent and swept her off her feet into a bridal carry. Technically you're stronger than her at the moment. Circumstances just sucked. The blonde replied with muted amusement as he carried her to the small cot in the corner of the Spartan room. Akeno sighed and nuzzled his chest as she lay on top of him. Sorry for attacking you, lolicon bastard. You wouldn't be you if you didn't. Naruto pointed out wryly, ignoring the jibe. The girl on his chest simply hummed. Before she jerked upwards again with narrowed eyes. Speaking of which, why are you still in the human world? I assumed you were here only because of Phoenix. The blonde made some vague gestures, this and that. When her glare intensified, the blonde couldn't help but chuckle and raise his hands in surrender. Things are getting restless. I have a standing order to protect Rias from stuff that she can't handle until she can. He shrugged carelessly. Ria-chan knows this. It was one of the preconditions that her overly doting brother imposed on her before he allowed her to come to the human world. I just never had a reason to show myself until recently. Giving a cute huff through her nose, Akeno resettled himself on his chest once he was sure that he wasn't hiding anything else. It was a little early for bed, but right now, she just wanted to revel in the comfort of his presence. The hooded man sighed and wrapped his arms around her waist, an unspoken assurance for the girl who had somehow wormed her way into his heart. Though neither of them had ever said anything out loud about confirming the strange, reluctant relationship they shared. Part parental, part friends and part something more. It was just the way they were. End game. Crystal blue flames flared in the darkness as he felt something warping the town's atmosphere. An influx of charged ozone flooded the dark red sky. Dark red sky. Naruto cursed and quietly slipped out of Akeno's grip as quietly as he could without waking her up, only to know he had failed when the girl stirred restlessly now that her favorite and warm plushie was gone. Moo. Akeno stretched like a cat, her form-fitting uniform emphasizing her bust. Naruto? She asked sleepily. Before he could answer, he heard an urgent knock on T. He door shortly before a flustered Rias barged in with the rest of the occult research club trailing behind her, including a sleepy-looking Revel dressed a cute pink set of fluffy pajamas. The Flame H-aired heiress of Grimori House took on an authoritative posture, ignoring the half-lidded Akeno Himehime on Naruto's bed and cut straight to the point. What's going on, Nisama? Have you seen the sky? I have, he replied shortly as he knelt in front of the girl so that he could look deep into her eyes to emphasize how bad things was. Listen to me, there is a heretic god in town. At that, the faces of those that understood what a heretic god was turned exceptionally grim. Even Akeno was now fully awake and throwing on her jacket. We've known that one was waking up, but we couldn't tell which one. I won't ask you to go back to bed, but please, he gripped her shoulders, please don't interfere no matter how bad it looks. Just stay as far as you can and watch. Okay. The flame-haired girl bit her lip in indecision but nodded. Without wasting another second, the hooded man leapt out of the window. What is a heretic god? Rias drew a deep breath to stop herself from snapping at SSEI because she knew that he wasn't aware of all the intricacies of being a devil yet. I'll tell you later. For now, all of us have to head to the hill behind the show. Just then the ground quaked. As they watched a massive plume of smoke appear in the distance and Rias felt the blood drain away from her. We need to get there. Now, we can watch what is happening from there and stay away from the battlefield. From inside the plume, a massive titan with glowing brown skin, at least 500 feet tall, stepped forward. Each step was a miniature earthquake in itself, making it hard for the group of school-aged children to maintain their footing as they hurried to the top of the hill behind the school. What is that? Issei shouted in confusion. Akeno took in the titan, which was wearing sandals. A plumed helmet and typical Roman centurion armored cuirass with a bronze pauldron shaped like a woodpecker and a wolf on each shoulder. It carried a massive bronze glowing shield in its left hand, and a massive spear topped with a garland of laurel. A spear that was currently being waved around a small black speck in an attempt to crush it. The speck landed on the ground before shooting back into the sky. Colliding with the shield with a loud reverberating screech, its two arm blades tried to pierce the shield with nothing but sparks to show for it. That, Akeno stopped for a moment to regain her breath, is Mars. The Roman god of war, most implacable of the Roman pantheon. End game. Played 2 steps from hell, heart of courage extended. Leaping agilely from limb to limb, the tiny speck that was a caped and hooded man scrambled up Mars' neck, digging his blades into the bronze skin for leverage and definitely annoying the god if his roars were any indication. That's right, come and get me you dumb fuck. Naruto leapt up, avoiding a massive palm that was trying to swat him like a bug and landed on the huge-ass nose. Sprinting forwards he thrust his arm blades into the left eye socket, causing golden ichor to shower him when the huge palm returned for a second round. This time they were successful and the blonde was squashed under several metric tons of celestial flesh before being swatted to the ground like a meteor. A rather disheveled man painfully crawled out of the imprint his body had made in the earth, his regenerative power resetting all the bones had been smashed to dust by that attack. The last bone returned to its place just as Naruto looked up to see the titan rearing back with his spear. Not wasting another second, he resummoned his arm blades and braced himself. Naruto grunted as he crossed the massive blades, deflecting the spear thrust. The shit-ton of pure force from just deflecting it alone was enough to jar him badly. The spear head rocketed past his body like a bullet train before digging itself into an abandoned part of town with a massive roar that shook the entire town, immediately shedding the blades for more maneuverable digits. Naruto flung his arms around the bronze shaft, the width of his arms barely even covering 1/10 of its circumference, but it was enough for him to get a grip on. The sharp claws at the end of each finger dug in and Naruto heaved. Ooh. Spear and titan was sent flying through the sky. Issei's eyes bulged as the monster was sent flying away by the tiny speck, a god. Like real divine stuff. Satan etc. Issei. Rias said with a deceptively calm tone even as she watched her adopted brother go toe-to-toe with a god. We've already told you that God and therefore Satan exists, but they were defeated, leaving the angels, demons and fallen angels to fill the void. Therefore, you should already be able to tell that other gods exist as well and they can also die. She pointed at the titan which was slowly being cut down to size. What you don't know is that every divine being draws their strength from belief. Issei blinked, he could almost feel the capital B. When their religion wanes, their strength as a whole weakens. But because they are divine, they never truly die unless they will it themselves. They will always come back, getting belief and worship from there. Believers just ensures they do it faster. That is the Mars, the Roman god of warfare. As Akeno already said, the Roman religion slowly lost ground about 2 millennia ago, dooming the Roman pantheon of gods into the nether where they slowly crawl out of after each defeat. Those are what we call heretic gods. Their appearance is always followed by natural disasters. Normal people can't see him right now, but you can be damn sure they can feel those earthquakes. She drew a deep breath and pointed at the titan. That's why Naruto Nisama is trying his best to push Mars away from town. But why did they keep coming back? Bushu nodded in approval that he was asking the right question. When they crawl out, they seek fertile ground to spread their religion and gain strength once more. Long story short, let's say Mars defeats Naruto right here and now and none of us are currently strong enough to even scratch him save me. If that does happen, the Roman deities will be able to gain back ground and rematerialize legitimately, turning back from heretic gods to normal ones. Us, as the losers, would be forced to retreat to another area where our belief is strong. That's a bad thing, Issei questioned quietly. In general, one territory won't really matter, but without God and Satan, our forces are already withered despite the amount of territories we have. Angels and demons alone simply can't hold heretic gods back with our current strength, especially with how much internal strife we suffer from. She gazed at him empathically. If we are pushed back far enough, we would both, all of us here will permanently cease to exist. Quote, No, I don't mean that. He summoned his gauntlet and pointed at where the titan had split down into two beings, a massive skyscraper-sized wolf and woodpecker. And the wolf was currently heading straight for the middle of town while the woodpecker harried the black speck that was Naruto with its agility and ability to fly. I meant that. Rias, Eris O. F. The House of Grimoire blinked before steeling herself. Let's go. We have to stop that wolf from reaching town. Boost. Bushu, can you give me a lift? End game. Just before the wolf could re-enter Issei's hometown, a red comet with a blazing green emerald in its center fell out of the sky and hammered the wolf's skull into the ground with a powered fist. Get him while he's stunned. Not a bad idea, eyes. A smiling blonde sprinted up the wolf's snout and thrust his blade into the wolf's eye while the tiny Kaneko began pounding away on the wolf's snout itself with her monstrous strength. The sheer blunt force of her punch sending its skull up and down like a roller coaster. Above the three melee fighters, Revel, Rias and Akeno were hurling spell after spell of sizzling lightning. Blazing fire and blackish red orbs of destruction at the stunned beast, which was really all they could do, throw all the brute force they had at the wolf in an attempt to distract it. Rias grit her teeth and realized why Naruto was so insistent that she and her friends stayed away from the fight. Kiba's demonic blades was barely an irritant as his sharpest blade literally bounced off the lit pupilled eyeball, and despite Kaneko's massive strength, all she was doing was annoying the wolf instead of any actual damage. Revel and Akeno encountered similar problems. Mars wolf form was impervious to magic, and despite their best efforts the wolf slowly got up, the earth cracking under its feet as it shook the fire and lightning spells off like a dog would shake off water. Only her orbs of destruction in her pawn was doing any noticeable damage. Each orb that hit the wolf's flank ate away at its existence like acid on flesh, but she knew that her strength was nowhere enough for a sustained attack of this level. Eyes was already in armor mode and his clawed fists wailed away at the wolf's forehead, scratching deep gouges in the thick fur with the spikes. As she thought, they really weren't strong enough to fight with a god. That was when bad turned to worse. Play ES. Posthumous, unstoppable. Kaneko screamed once as a massive paw lifted and swatted her high into the sky. The sounds of her ribs cracking could be heard by everyone there, but only Revel had been paying attention while everyone had been focused on hurting the god. The Nekomata reached the apex of her forced flight before almost slowly falling back. Right where those massive jaws were waiting for a morsel to eat. The Phoenix flitted down as fast as she could, darting through the gaps in the wolf's fang and caught the unconscious Kaneko mid-fall before she could enter the beast's throat when the jaw snapped shut around them. Or it tried to. A somewhat pissed-off hooded man had thrust his body in between the closing jaw, catching the back of a scared Revel's pajamas with one black armored hand. "Ma master, your body!" she cried out in horror. She could feel him giving her a pained smile as his armored body, already badly pierced by the fangs, was slowly being crushed under the sheer pressure of the wolf's jaw. He grimaced even as whatever metal it was made from folded with a screech. "Don't worry about me." He elbowed the closest fang, breaking it off so that he could get some leverage. "Even if you don't like me, as long as you are in my peerage, I'll always protect you." He squeezed her tiny fist in his huge metallic one. "Now get ready." A rather pale Revel nodded. Her wings fluttered unsteadily in mid-air as her master's arms turned to black blades again. "Ooh oh 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 h. The roar issued. Why his throat got louder and louder as he forced the jaws apart with his blades, just enough for a scared Revel to dart through. The crying blonde girl, with an unconscious silver-haired girl in her RMS hovered in mid-air anxiously waiting for her master to escape as well when the jaws slammed shut like a steel trap. She tried to scream but nothing came out from her throat when a whispery, ethereal chant reached her ears. That's it for today, I will stop here. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you please consider subscribe and make sure to hit that like button, share with your friends, and don't forget to check out my Patreon. Details in description.